Good morning, everybody. Welcome to this, which is the launch event for the Energy Catalyst Competition Round 8, addressing the need for clean, affordable and secure energy in Sub-Saharan Africa, Southeast Asia and South Asia. My name is Jonathan Abra of the Knowledge Transfer Network. We're bringing this to you in conjunction with Enterprise Europe Network and a number of other partners on behalf of Innovate UK. This is funded by the Global Challenges Research Fund in conjunction with DFID and UK Aid. So in a moment, I'm going to hand over to Nicola Lazenby, who's going to take you through the competition. But if I just click the right button. A quick overview of the agenda today, so you've got an idea of what's happening. So welcome and introduction, that's this bit. As I say, shortly I'll hand over to the challenge lead, which is Nicola Lazenby. Then we'll have a look at how you go about applying to the process, and that's really extremely important. Do not miss that bit. Similarly, if you've had any involvement with Energy Catalyst before, you'll know that gender equality and social diversity is crucial to getting your application right. So we've got Value for Women, who's going to take you through that. Around 10:20, we'll hand over to Charlotte Ray, who will talk to you about the context for this competition, which is the Transforming Energy Access Initiative. After which, we'll move on to David Aitken from the Carbon Trust. He's going to talk about something new that's only come into being with Round 8, the Energy Catalyst Accelerator. At 11 o'clock, we'll have Jens Berm from Enterprise Europe Network. He's going to talk to you about the B2 Match platform. If you're not familiar with B2 Match, that's the website whereby we can match you with potential partners. You can arrange meetings, you can speak with them, share your details. Extremely powerful platform. Please do get involved with that. And then I'll share a few words about how you might go about building your consortium and who you need to consider, what you need to consider. We're very privileged to have two case studies from companies that have previously been funded through Energy Catalyst. So you can hear from the horse's mouth exactly what it means to participate in this competition and what it can do for you. After all those presentations, we'll open the floor to questions. You can submit your questions through the chat box on YouTube, and that's being moderated by Jenny McDonnell, who is a previous KTN lead on Energy Catalyst, so she knows this inside out. We'll take a quick break after that presentation, and you can go and grab yourself a coffee. And then there will be pitches from a number of companies and organizations who are looking for partners. So if you're in the market for somebody to collaborate with, you might want to listen in and hear what they have to say. We should close probably a bit before 1:15. So just to make sure that you're actually in the right webinar, a very quick introduction. Energy Catalyst supports UK and overseas businesses and organizations to develop highly innovative, market-focused energy technologies that primarily look to enable energy access in Sub-Saharan Africa and South and Southeast Asia. Yeah, if that's you, you're probably in the right place. Nicola will dwell on this in her presentation, I'm sure, but that is the basic criteria that you need to match. And just to let you know that this is a program that's been running since 2014. So if you're new to Energy Catalyst and you're wondering whether it's anything substantial, it's got a track record, it's extremely well supported, it's well funded, and there have been many success stories as a result of this particular initiative. So, without further ado, I'm going to hand you over to Nicola, who's going to assume control of the slides, and she can tell you what it's all about. Nicola. Nicola's just finding her cursor on the screen. I can see it moving around. Or you can just tab down, Nicola. And don't forget to unmute yourself as well. Unmute. No? Oh dear. Apologies for this.
There we go.
Right.
It's because I was controlling your screen.
Okay.
Wonderful. So good morning, everyone, and welcome to the launch event of the Energy Catalyst Round 8 competition. For those who may have seen Energy Catalyst slides before, you will notice this is our new visual identity. The blue and things like that, as you'll see throughout the slides, is our new look and feel. So I hope you like that. And yeah, this is the first public outing of these slide templates. So Energy Catalyst Round 8, the competition briefing. Here we go. So hopefully in the next 20 minutes or so, I will be covering what the background of the Energy Catalyst programme is, a bit of an overview of the programme and where it's got to date. As Jonathan said, this has been running since 2014, so it's long established and it's had many iterations over the years. I'll then move on to Energy Catalyst Round 8 and look at the eligibility and scope for that. Following that, there'll be a little bit on how to apply, although I'm saving the bulk of that for Carl, who follows me, and then the support available to anyone thinking of applying. So the Energy Catalyst programme stems from the challenges of energy poverty. With over 1 billion people out there who do not have access to electricity, and over 3 billion who still rely on solid fuels such as kerosene for cooking and heating. There's a lot of issues around grid-based systems with regards to economics and governance barriers, and the vast majority of people who gain access to electricity worldwide are in urban areas. So the Energy Catalyst mission is to, sorry, my slides are jumping around there. The Energy Catalyst mission is to accelerate the innovation needed to end energy poverty. By providing financial and advisory support to innovators, we can help create strategic partnerships, uncover insights, and develop business models to improve lives in Africa and Asia. So this competition focuses on those in Sub-Saharan Africa, South and Southeast Asia. Now moving on to the programme, you can see that the Energy Catalyst is comprised of 5 different areas of the programme. The first one being collaboration building. This is where we would usually travel internationally to visit different countries to gain an understanding of the energy access needs and issues in those countries. We'd also help broker collaborations between in-country partners and organisations and UK organisations. Obviously, due to COVID-19, this hasn't been able to go ahead. Therefore, we've taken everything online with regards to virtual brokerage. This is where we've been running for the last 4 weeks, an online platform for anyone who's looking for partners to get involved and pitch what they need to make their project a success. We've also run a series of webinars from in-country partners from 10 different countries to explain the energy access needs, governance, policy, and a whole other range of other elements to do with their country. All of these have been recorded and you can find those on the Beta Match platform, which Jens will be talking about later on. The second part of the programme is the grant funding competition. This is why we're all here today. This is where we provide funding to help you develop your technology. I'll cover that more in the next few slides. Next up, we try and accelerate your technology commercially. This is where we build the commercial skills that you need to develop your organisation, IP, innovation into something sustainable. So it's in tandem to the technology development, the commercial development. Number 4 is the follow-on support. This is where we help you broker the next step following your project, whether this is finding your next grant, your next investor, future partnerships, all those kind of things at stage 4 of the programme. When it comes to stage 5, we try and foster all of the learning that we've gathered from both our projects, the wider energy catalyst sector, and the rest of the energy access sector, whether that's in the UK or overseas, internationally. We try and bring all those learning together to really drive forward the future of the energy access sector. So the Energy Catalyst competition, as Jonathan said earlier, it's already had 7 calls, and across those calls has committed 140 million of grant funding. This is bringing in 60 million of co-funding with 70 million pounds worth of private investment. And project-wise, that's over 300 different projects with over 1,000 partners, with over 100 of those being international partners. So if we take the Energy Catalyst Round 7 portfolio, for example, you can see most of the people who are project leads across this portfolio are startups. And again, if you look at the general makeup of all of the projects, over 50% of these are startups again. And then when you consider the different stages of the Energy Catalyst Round 7 portfolio, this is, just as an example, you can see we primarily have funded early stage projects. This isn't to mean that mid or late stage projects are less funded. It's just generally we get less of them apply, and you'll see those stats later. And then again, just a representation of Energy Catalyst's previous round, round 7. When we look at the project partner locations, you can see there's a lot more international and overseas organisations getting involved in the programme as maybe there was previous years. And likewise, the different sectors and organisation types, there's becoming more and more focus on international organisations. When it comes to the countries which have been the focus of Energy Catalyst projects, you can see there's quite a spread across Sub-Saharan Africa, South and Southeast Asia, with a couple in South America. This is for all of rounds 3 to 7. However, anyone who's been involved in Energy Catalyst will realise there's a few missing from this map. This is because 28 of these projects are cross-cutting in focus. Therefore, they're maybe hitting 2 or 3 different countries or maybe a region. And there could be early stage projects which are still carrying out feasibility studies to work out which exact country they will focus on. There's also 7 early stage projects which were in Energy Catalyst rounds 3 and 4, which were developing UK innovation. This is because the Energy Catalyst programme has transitioned from rounds 3 and 4 into being more internationally focused. So hopefully that's given you a bit of a flavour of Energy Catalyst and what the opportunities are and how the programme is shaped. I'm now going to talk about Energy Catalyst round 8 and the competition, so number 2 in the Energy Catalyst programme. Energy Catalyst round 8 has a total of up to 20 million available to projects. This is split across 3 different strands, which you can apply into, this being early, mid and late. To be in scope for your project, you must address the following. So you have to look at and address the energy trilemma, transforming energy access, and gender equality and social inclusion. These are for countries in Sub-Saharan Africa, South and Southeast Asia. Moving on to the next slide, you will see that there's a whole range of countries which you can choose to be your focus. This is all of the eligible countries Energy Catalyst round 8 will consider. If it's not on this list, please drop an email to energycatalyst@innovateuk.ukri.org and we can answer all your questions. I'll have that email address up at the end of the presentation. So I mentioned Energy Catalyst has up to £20 million of grant funding available. This is thanks to our partners at the Department for International Development and Global Challenges Research Fund, who've invested up to 5 million and 15 million in the programme. You can see that these co-founders have been involved for multiple rounds and therefore really supporting the Energy Catalyst programme. You can see that they fund more than just the competition, funding both the accelerator, post-competition support and some of the brokerage activities. With regards to round 8, DFID, the Department for International Development, has included up to £5 million worth of funding in this competition. Up to 3 million of this 5 million will be prioritised to projects focusing on specifically energy storage. However, they were also interested in any of the projects considering the following areas that I have on the slide. So things like modern cooking, sustainable cooling, next generation solar, and so on. DFID do have a slightly different list of priority countries, which they'd focus on. So please check the competitions brief for those. However, DFID will also consider outstanding projects in other areas or other geographical areas. So please review that in the competition guidelines. So as I mentioned, Energy Catalyst Round 8, the scope has transforming energy access, energy trilemma, gender and social inclusion. These are 3 areas that you must hit in your application. And I'll now consider each of those in turn. So transforming energy access. Your project must aim to speed up access to affordable clean energy services for poor households and enterprises in Sub-Saharan Africa, South and Southeast Asia. You can read on the screen here that it's open to both on and off grid and can be supporting the developing, testing, scaling up of innovative technologies and business models. That is one thing to note about Energy Catalyst. It's not just purely about technologies, it also supports business models. As I said previously, the primary benefit must be Sub-Saharan Africa, South or Southeast Asia. Moving on to the energy trilemma. This is where we aim to accelerate innovation in technologies that address all elements of the energy trilemma. So this is clean, affordable, and enabling secure supply of energy access. Moving through this to gender equality and social inclusion. This is the 3rd part which your application must consider. So it's things like identifying the main beneficiaries, describing how you mitigate any negative effects, and really going through your project with a gender lens and social inclusion lens. Value for women, we'll be talking about more on this later on in the slides. There's one other key part which I've just put on the screen here, a bit wordy for my usual slides. However, it's very important that you read and understand that because Energy Catalyst is funded through official development assistance, you must be compliant with this. So please ensure you make yourself familiar with this, as it will form one of the questions in the application. So you can see here how you have to describe your project and how it will promote social welfare and economic development in an eligible country. You need to look at the benefit to project partners and who your consortium is and why it is like that, and explain the project and how it will or has the potential to deliver various outcomes. So please consider the compliance and all of the guidance available on the competition documents to support in answering this question. So moving on to what you can actually apply for. So as I previously said, Energy Catalyst is split into 3 different streams, and I'll consider each of those in turn now. So the first one being feasibility studies. This is where you can apply for up to £300,000, with the smallest amount being £50,000. Your project duration can be 6 to 12 months. And if you're a UK SME, this is the only stream which you can apply into yourself. Otherwise, this and every other stream must be collaborative. You can see here the different project leads, international requirements, and maximum research participation. I do have a slide later on which will consider and demonstrate each of the different project makeups you can have with regards to your consortium. When it comes to mid-stage, this is where we're looking at industrial research. And this is where you can apply for up to £1.5 million with a longer project up to 24 months. This one must be collaborative and it must be business-led. And you'll see here that you must be doing some testing or demonstration work in Sub-Saharan Africa, South and Southeast Asia. And an international partner is required. You can also see now that we've moved into the mid-stage that the research participation amount is capped at 30%. This is because we're expecting projects to be driving further towards commercialization. Very similar to mid-stage is the late stage for experimental development. And here you can see how the total eligible project costs have gone up to 5 million, again with the lowest amount being 50,000, sorry. You can apply up to 36 months. And again, this all must be collaborative and business-led. And again, there's a lower amount of research participation. So in this slide, I've tried to demonstrate examples of how your collaborations could work. By all means, explore this and see how this works for your own project. You can see here that for each project must have a technical lead and an administrative lead. Further details of this are provided in the competition documents, so please make sure you're familiar with all of this before you apply. You can see that the administration lead must be UK based. So for an early stage, this can be an SME academic organisation or an RTO. When it moves through to mid and late stage, your admin lead must be a business of any size. So again, this could be an SME or a large business. When you look at the technical lead, these can be from anywhere in the world. Again, when it's technical lead for earlies, these can be more of the academic organisations or RTOs. However, once you hit the mid and late, these should be a business of any size. You will see there's some additional criteria here, where each of the different streams must have an SME involved somewhere in the project. And when you hit the mid and late stages, these should involve a project partner with a legal entity in the focus country you're working in. So this slide is just exactly what I've just presented, but brought together. So you can see the differences in the funding amounts, so the total eligible project costs, the differences in the total project durations, and the differences with regards to the collaboration makeup, as well as the research participation amounts. So example themes for which projects could focus on. So this is making new solutions more affordable. You could be integrating technologies into a system or business model to help you unlock financial targets or developments. You could be developing technologies or partnerships, business models which address barriers to deployment, such as skills and mitigation technologies. You could unlock underserved market segments and look at trying to scale or hit rural areas, different end users. And if you look at projects which are out of scope, this is any innovation which is unlikely to contribute energy affordability, security, or reduce carbon emissions. Any projects that aren't focusing on Sub-Saharan Africa, South or Southeast Asia. Anything that doesn't address the energy trilemma, isn't ODA compliant, or doesn't look to manage and plan for gender equality and social inclusion. So basically the opposite of any of the scope slides I previously mentioned. I just want to flag some additional requirements for Energy Catalyst before I finish. And this is the Energy Catalyst Accelerator. You will have David Aiken from the Carbon Trust talking through this later on. However, every project which is successful in receiving an Energy Catalyst grant is enrolled into the Energy Catalyst Accelerator. This is where the technical or primary partner in the project will receive one-to-one support to develop their business. All project partners will get involved in cohort level activities. And just to flag that this is delivered through de minimis aid, which you will have to submit a declaration for before you receive the support after you've been allocated your Energy Catalyst grant. The other area to flag is the additional monitoring and reporting required due to this being ODA funded from DFID. Every project will be allocated a monitoring officer, which they'll meet with quarterly. You'll be required to capture additional KPIs, key performance indicators, and you'll be required to complete post-project evaluation reports 1 and 2 years after completion. So just a flavour of some of these key performance indicators are on this slide here. So it's the factors such as how much private sector funding have you raised during or following your project, IP that's generated, publications, patents, how many women are involved in leadership roles within your project, and the other elements on this screen. Your monitoring officer will go through all of these with you at the beginning of your project should you be successful. So how to apply? Full competition details and application forms are available on the Innovation Funding Service. There'll be 15 questions as part of your application. The first part of the application form is all just capturing information about your project. So a summary, description, who the administrative and technical leads are, which technology sector and focus countries are you working in. And then you have questions 1 to 3, which are pass or fail. If you fail these, your application does not go any further and does not get assessed. So it's really important that you actually consider these thoroughly before you start your application. So there's a question around order compliance, how you meet the energy trilemma, and gender and social inclusion. Question 4 is all about equality, diversity, inclusion, and isn't scored. And then questions 5 to 15 are the scored application questions. So I said I'd include some stats. So here we are. This is the success statistics for the Energy Catalyst competition. So you can see for round 6 and 7, there was slightly different funding amounts available. And yet you can see how, as you go through from applied to those who scored over the threshold to those who've been funded. And as I said earlier, the reason there's fewer late projects funded is purely because fewer late fund projects apply. And you can see how it tracks through on this table. I wanted to cover a little bit on finances here. So project partners should be invited to the application by the UK admin lead for the project. Each partner organisation must submit their own project costs and organisation details onto IFS. So you as project lead cannot put in all of the information for the different partners that are forming your consortium. Any UK registered businesses must be eligible to receive state aid. So this is the likes of undertaking in difficulties. So please check out what that means and if it applies to you, as we do have many projects that come through and are undertaken in difficulty at the point of award, and therefore we cannot fund them. And yet we do not fund 100% of any economical activity. This is with regards to state aid. So please check the match funding project contribution that's required for each of the project stages. And grant awards to international partners will be at the same percentage as the equivalent UK organisation. And international partners are funded through the hub and spoke model through their UK lead partner. And you're not doing this by yourself. So there's a lot of additional support available for you as an applicant. Firstly, we have the virtual brokerage and webinar series. This is where you can go and understand energy access requirements through in-country expert webinars and find potential project partners. Think of this as the online dating for Energy Catalyst. We have the knowledge transfer network, who can help with a whole range of different areas, from application support, technical support, to finding partners. Likewise, the Enterprise Europe network. And you'll hear later on from the Low Carbon Energy for Development network and Value for Women on how they can support your applications. Just to note that support providers will share your details back to Innovate UK, just so we can monitor and evaluate the support we're providing. So if you want to get in touch with any of these people, here's a whole list of different contact and web addresses. Hopefully they'll be useful in you putting together your application. And yet, I think we're taking questions at the end of this section. So I will hand back over to Jonathan.
I am here. Yeah. Right. So thank you very much for that, Nicola. Hopefully that's put it in context for everybody. I'm conscious that I've been receiving a lot of requests via email to join late from people who forgot to register or lost their link or various other reasons. Please be assured that this is being recorded and the recording will be available on YouTube to watch back afterwards. So if you've missed my introduction or Nicola's section, please don't forget to watch back. Very important information conveyed there. So I'd like now to hand over to Carl Wilkins from the competitions team at Innovate UK. Carl has the enviable task of telling you about the intricacies of how to go about applying. I'm going to sound a little bit like your school teacher here and say, listen very carefully, because so often we get very good applications that for some technical reason or other have to be rejected. So please do obey the fundamentals. Please do read the questions and the instructions. Listen very carefully to what Carl has to say. Carl, over to you.
Thank you very much, Jonathan. Okay, so I'm going to talk you through the competition process and how to apply briefly. So a bit of information about UKRI. We work with the government to invest over 7 million, apologies, the screen's moving, over 7 billion a year in research and innovation by partnering with academia and industry to make the impossible possible. Through the UK's 9 leading academic and industrial funding councils, we create knowledge with impact. Now, to discuss some of the eligibility criteria in a bit more detail. So resubmissions, this competition does allow resubmissions. Innovate classes a resubmission as an application not materially different from one you've submitted before. Your application is classified as a resubmission if it was previously deemed out of scope for another competition. However, if you were previously ineligible, for example, having project costs over the funding limits, this wouldn't be deemed a resubmission. The types of organisations that Innovate UK Fund can be seen here. We have research organisations, either a university or one of these other categories, and then we have public sector organisations and charities. And the amount of funding that you can receive will depend on the organisation category that you fit into. For eligibility for state aid, to be eligible to receive state aid, you must pass the undertakings in difficulty test. This only applies to limited liability companies that are more than 3 years old. If you have a parent company, the test can be performed on your parent company or holding company. It is your responsibility to make sure that your business is eligible before you submit an application. If you are successful in the competition, we will apply this test as part of our viability checks. If you are unsure whether you are eligible to receive state aid, please seek legal advice in advance. Further information is available on our website, and you can also contact our support team if you have any queries, and we will share the contact details at the end of my presentation. For state aid, Article 25 is also being used. So funding for R&D projects we split into 3 categories: feasibility studies, industrial research, and experimental development. It applies to almost every sector and a wide range of eligible costs, as you can see from the list below. I won't go through it in too much detail and bore you to death. You're also eligible for state aid and de minimis, as Nicola alluded to before. So de minimis allows up to €200,000, approximately £175,000, to be provided over a 3-year fiscal period. Funding can be used for most purposes, including operation aid, and does not have to be project related. Funding has a negligible impact onto trade and competitions. Participation rules. Aim for state aid scheme is to oppose the level of funding and to the business, and also recognise the importance of research-based projects. At least 70% of total eligible project costs must be incurred by a business. The maximum level is shared by all research organisations in a project. What is collaboration? I know Nicola talked on this previously, so I won't go into too much detail, but there must be genuine evidence of collaboration. You'll need to explain in your application how all partners will contribute to the project and benefit from this collaboration. Making more than one application. A business can be involved in up to 3 applications, but only lead in 1 standard application. Other UK innovation projects. If you have any outstanding final claim or independent account report review, IARs, on a live Innovate UK project, you will not be eligible to apply for a grant funding in this competition as a lead or partner organisation. If you apply to a previous competition as the lead or a sole company and were awarded funding by Innovate UK, but did not make a substantial effort to exploit that award, we will award no more funding to you moving forward. So here is an overview of some key dates to bear in mind. Please note the submission deadline is now 11 AM, and it will close at 11 AM on the dot. So IFS will automatically close at 11:01, and applications after that point will not be seen or submitted. We strongly recommend that you submit your application as early as possible to avoid traffic, as it usually is high on the deadline day. Please contact the customer support team in advance of the deadline if you have any queries or experience any difficulties with submitting your application, so that we can assist you in good time. To discuss the Innovation Funding Service in more detail. So when you go into the Innovation Funding Service website, and you can search for a competition, as you can see from my slides. When you click on Apply on the competition webpage, you'll be directed here. Use the keyword search To find the competition that you're interested in, you can click on the title and that will open up all of the tabs that you can see there on my bottom screenshot. This will show you where you can find the summary of the competition, very importantly, the eligibility, and also the how to apply section as well for more guidance. If you wish to start a new application, simply click on Start New Application section. To apply for a competition, the lead applicant will need to create an account. If you've applied for a previous competition on IFS, you can simply sign in as before. You can use Companies House lookup to search your organization to save typing in the name and address. If you're not on Companies House, you can manually enter this information yourself. We recommend that research organizations and academias or universities manually enter the information so that you are not listed as a business on IFS and ensure that you receive the correct funding. Okay, so project details, application details. Here's an overview. Please make sure that your research category is correct and that is used to calculate your grant value. For project summary, highlight the need or challenge, approach and innovation and key outcomes. The key to setting the scene for your assessors and give the best outcome for you to get the best results. Public description, your published public description in your project will be successful. It will go online, it will be live for all to see. Please be aware of confidentiality here. And your scope, it's important that your project is within scope to receive funding. Please use this field to justify how your project fits the scope for assessors. If you're unsure as to whether or not your application is in scope for this competition, please review the eligibility criteria shown beforehand. And we can also discuss this with your contact and customer support team, which I will give you the address details at the end. As Nicola discussed earlier, there are 15 questions as part of the application. The ODA question is question 1. As you can see from the 15 questions, there are additional appendices that you will need to complete for questions 1, 6, 7, 11, and 13. Okay, for application finances. To claim funding, your business does not have to be a UK registered with Companies House when you apply, but it must be registered before you can receive funding. If you're unable to claim funding, you will not be able to claim if you're an overseas organization. Your company number will begin with FC. Your organization is set up as a branch and it will begin with BR, or your company is based in Jersey and begins with JE. Labour costs. So you'll need to enter the role within the project, the gross annual salary, the number of staff that you have, and the days that you've spent in total on the project so far. IFS will calculate the total costs. If you have multiple people in the same role on the same average salary, enter this within the role projection field. If an employee is part-time, you should enter their cost as a full-time equivalent. You can adjust the working days per year from the default if this is different from your project. Please note that dividends, bonuses, and non-productive time are not eligible as labour costs. When making grant claims against labour costs, actual cost claims must be supported within timesheets. We define overheads as additional costs and operational expenses incurred directly as a result of the project. These could include additional costs for administrative staff, general IT, rent, and utilities. You have 3 options to calculate overheads, either no overheads, 20% of labour costs, or calculate overheads. We class indirect administration overheads as these associated with back office functions such as finance and HR facility. With primary function is to support the running of a business. They only claim a portion of the time and their works need to be additional to delivery of the project. Typically, these are not directly related to a particular project or service or production. Direct overheads are costs associated with staff working directly on a project, for example, for laptops, desks, and office facilities. We supply a simple form into which you can list each type of your direct overhead together with methodology and the basis of appointment to this particular project. Again, these overheads will not be incurred if the project does not happen. To enter and describe what material cost you intend to use, the volume and the cost you must include. The materials must be listed as project specific. Please provide as much information as possible. For example, just putting consumables, £50,000, that will not provide sufficient information or detail. And if you're successful, our project finance team will ask you for more information to be provided. Any items which you would usually depreciate as per your company's policy should be listed in the capital usage. Materials supplied by associated companies or subcontracted from other consortium members must be listed as cost, excluding any profit or margin elements. Here you'll need to describe how you're using the equipment, whether it's new or existing equipment, the new equipment purchase cost, how long you are depreciating it over the time period, and the residual value at the end. These calculations need to be in line with your accounting practices moving forward. with some contractors, this is a cost. If the cost is going to be significant, we will need to know this, and you'll need to justify who, why, and what you need these people for to subcontract for, both in here and also in the application within this section. It's important to justify the use of subcontractors within your application, especially those that are not UK based, as the assessors do not see this within the level of financial detail. They only see the total cost itself. If you use a parent or sister company, please ensure the list at cost. Please ensure you use the list at cost and do not include any profit. For travel and subsistence, here you would include things such as any essential meetings that you need to happen during the project. You cannot include any sales and marketing activity, as this will be ineligible. Travel cost must be at an economy travel only. You should be prepared to provide a financial breakdown of these costs if the financial review asks for this in more detail. For example, they may require you to provide or split a travel into subsistence, accommodation, and travel components where required. For other costs, please check the finance guide to see what costs can be included here. If you're unsure, please do not hesitate to contact the customer support team, as they will be able to assist you. Any other costs which don't fit the categories, for example, are training directly attributable to the project, licensing new technologies, patent filing for costs for new IP and SMEs up to £7,500. And please ensure there is no double counting and all costs must be justified, as I said before. Funding rules. As previously mentioned, the level of funding awarded will depend on the type of organisation you are and the type of research being undertaken for the project. IFS will calculate your grant percentage based on the answers that you have input into the system. As part of the new laws within the state aid scheme, we are required to ask whether the activities you plan to undertake will be economical or non-economic. If for this plan to apply with other organisations, this will affect the amount that you are able to claim and is a requirement to every competition, even on multiple applications. So this is a table for the grant rates here. As you can see, they're awarded to each individualisation in organisation and consortium. Check the table for your competition. And as a reminder, the amount that you're funding and eligible for is dependent on your organisation type. So please refer back to this within the scheme. And if you have any queries, please contact the customer support team. Okay, here's an example of how to show the funding rules and how it might work for an industrial research CRD project. So just a high-level overview, and again, something that you can refer back to later on in the project. Okay, so for our academic partners in your consortium will need to complete a GES form, which they should be familiar with. The form validates costs for us. Innovate UK don't have access to the GES system to extract information ourselves, which is why we need it to be sent to us. When you've completed their GES form, academics will need to include their unique reference number on IFS and put their figures into this. Please ensure the figures you provide are identical. The form must be with council status and uploaded in IFS as a PDF document. You must also ensure academic partners complete the justification of resources and pathways to impact on the GES form, as this information for the assessors will be needed immediately. GES is a completely separate system from IFS, so if you have any questions on GES, then please call or email the GES help desk directly. For international academics, you will need to register as an RTO and not as an academic, therefore the GES form will not be required. And also you'll be able to see here the queries section and also contact details for GES to revert back to. Okay, submitting your application. This is a summary of the project costs available to all organisations in the project. You will not be able to see any more detail or breakdowns of anyone else's costs. This is also what the assessors will see. For collaborative applications, IFS will highlight the lead applicant. Any partners who will have outstanding project finances also to be completed. All finances must be included in the application before the lead can submit the application. It will also check that your research participation costs are within the required limits. IFS does not validate project costs. It is your responsibility to ensure all costs are within the eligible project costs as stated within the brief from the outset. We're able to track site usage and submission uploads throughout the process, and this table shows the number of applicants submitting their proposals each hour leading up to the 11 AM deadline. As you can see, the majority of applicants leave it to the final hours, and we strongly recommend submitting this as early as possible to avoid any technical issues, or if you require further assistance or there are any queries, try and get this done as early as you possibly can. Okay, for assessment. Your applications will be assessed. This involves a scope check and will be reviewed by up to 5 independent assessors. There will be feedback collation in the final score and also an interview process if required. Assessors tell us what they want to clarify. They'll provide detail and justification, and to see if the applicant has presented a viable opportunity for growth with an exciting innovation where public funding will make a real difference to developing their idea, and that the right people and the right approach have been taken for the successful project to exploit the results. Answer as many questions as you possibly can in full and using the guidance so that the assessors can award you maximum marks, even if you have a fantastic idea. If you don't answer the questions in full or correctly, you won't be scored well. Just some notes on feedback. It's compiled using the written comments of an independent assessor who review and assess applications, and it's intended to be constructive in nature. It will highlight both the strong points and also any weak areas of our application. And please bear in mind that because applications are assessed by a number of assessors, you may receive information which appears to be conflicting in some cases. It also must be noted that some proposals may appear to be favourably assessed based on their comments, and in such instances it could be that your proposal simply fell below the funding threshold, with others achieving a higher score or merit overall. We review scores and feedback to check assessors are adhering to our guidelines and scoring fairly. In some cases where we feel the score is unjustified and not supported by the correct feedback, we may remove the scores as an outlier and update the total score for application. Please be aware that both low and high outliers may be removed as a result of scores. This may increase or decrease accordingly. If outliers are removed, we are unable to reflect this change in the scores you receive as part of the feedback due to this decision being completed outside of the standard assessing process. This is an excerpt from the panel sheet. As you can see from the sheet that we all have assessed multiple assessments. The right-hand column will show the score for a particular application, and the highlighted column shows the score spread. And if there is a difference from the top and bottom scores, the next two columns let us know whether an application has been marked out of scope or not recommended for funding. If there are 3 or more and appear in either of the two columns, account of no score or recommended, we review the applications again. We look at the detailed scores, and then we check the feedback to see whether this is a fair score that's been given and check why this has happened, and whether the score change is justified. For identifying outliers, the green box highlights a particular assessor's score. The purple box highlights a set of scores for a particular question. We look for a difference of 20 or more within the assessor's total score to identify an outlier. At first glimpse, we would consider assessor 3 to be an outlier with a score of 62, but this must be backed up by the feedback provided. Okay, for assessor feedback, the lead will be notified of when feedback is available for you to review. They will go into their IFS dashboard and then view the feedback from this section. Okay, project setup for successful applicants. These are the project setup stages that need to be completed by all parties within 30 days. You can start the project setup as soon as you've been notified that you are successful. The project should start within 90 days. We no longer issue a conditional offer letter after notification, as organisations are signing up to our terms and conditions when you actually submit your application. The lead has visibility of the progress of all partners and so has the responsibility to push this through where needed. The lead would need to provide a collaboration agreement and exploitation plan. Each partner should provide their bank details and finance contact. For project team, each organisation can add new people into the project to be listed as either the finance contact or project manager. Individuals can allocate themselves and can take on both roles if they so choose. Applicants will only be able to invite people to their organisation to join the project. All project partners will be required to complete project setup and will require you to provide key information relating to your project and consortium. To avoid delays, we recommend that you consider who will be the project manager, who will be the finance contact manager for each consortium member, and also how will the consortium be set up if this is applicable to you. We frequently see that projects get held up by the collaboration agreements, so start thinking about this whilst you're in the creative stage of the application if possible. On the slide, there are a few key areas that you need to agree to amongst your consortium. We are unable to issue you a grant offer letter without this being confirmed. If you are successful and start your project with grant funding, you need to be aware of the fact that you will pay your claims quarterly in arrears. So if you're a small organisation, be wise to manage your cash flow. This can catch small companies out, as some projects can incur significant costs up front. The pattern of claim payments can impact on cash flow as quarterly in arrears. Another thing to bear in mind is that all costs have to be incurred and paid between the start and end date of the project. You cannot claim for costs before the project has received confirmation to start or after it is finished. Here are the contact details for the customer support team that I've alluded to previously, the contact number and also their email address. Again, links back to the KTN and also Innovate UK website for your use. And that's the end from me. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Carl, and apologies to everybody watching for the slight jerkiness of the handovers. It seems that we've got some control issues on the webinar platform. Anyway, nothing lost there, and Carl, that was truly heroic presentation to get through so much detail with such clarity. Thank you very much for that, and do encourage anybody who's got any questions to watch back, because all those slides contain all the information that you need, really. If you do have any further questions, the competition team can help, but it should be the case that if you watch those slides back on the recording, you'll get all the information that you need. So as mentioned by Nicola, and as I sort of flagged at the top of the programme, as it were, gender equality and social diversity are very important aspects of all GCRF funded activity. We're delighted to welcome the Value for Women team to talk about that, and not just about compliance, but also about the benefits to your project. So I'm going to hand over to, it says Luis Marquez, but I think it's Norman who's going to start. So Norman, if you'd like to take control of the slides, then I can approve you and you can take over. Over to you.
Thank you, Jonathan. This is Norman Sarria. Luis Marquez is also joining. He's actually going to start the presentation.
So hello, everybody. We have, we'll explain who Value for Women is in a second, but we want to talk to you about the perspective of us. So Value for Women is a UK-based social enterprise that helps companies such as yourselves, investors, and financial institutions to advance gender and social inclusion. We are present in Africa, Asia, and Latin America. And we have worked with dozens of energy firms, again, all over the world, and our work with energy firms, as well as studies from our partners and research from emerging markets and from developed economies, has shown that applying a gender lens to your business model and thinking about social inclusion issues in your business model, whether it be in your workforce, your market, or your value chain, can lead to better social and business results. Norman? Sorry. So we as Value for Women are here to help. We can help you, and Norman and I will be available to you to help you talk through these issues. And today, what we're going to do is go through some examples of what that might look like and what that has looked like for other companies, and try and convince you that these issues are important, not only because you're applying to this for these grants, but also because because they're important for your business. So Norman will take over, and then we'll be doing some lightning examples for you.
Thank you, Luis. So we've heard from Nicola before that we are expected to comply with ODA funding requirements, and they actually require us to be able to show how we're considering gender and social inclusion challenges and how we're going to address them. But we also like to take a slightly different approach when we're working with businesses in terms of gender inclusion. And we ask businesses whether they want any of these that you can see in the slide. And we actually found that in a lot of cases, when you're using what we call a gender lens or a social inclusion lens, you can actually also reap benefits for the business, economic benefit for the business. Gender and social inclusion practices can help your projects and businesses accelerate their sales growth, as they will help you tap into a broader talent pool, unlock economic potential of distribution and supply partners and their contributions to your operations, and bring you closer to your communities. They can also contribute to a more meaningful engagement with your customers, helping you better understand the differentiated needs and wants of men and women and of traditionally excluded groups. These practices allow you to find opportunities and detect inefficiencies that you might originally be unaware of. They also allow companies to perform better than their peers in different business metrics. If this sounds interesting, besides the fact that you're actually required to do this, it's also an opportunity for you to perform better in the projects that you are setting out to do.
And if we look, let's take a step back and we look at economic growth. So gender and social inclusion are good for multiple reasons. But if we were to close gender gaps in the economy, we know that we'd grow GDP in Africa by 10% by 2025 and 12% in Asia and the Pacific. We know, again, from multiple studies in emerging markets and also in developed economies, that businesses with gender diversity in leadership perform better on innovation, productivity, decision-making, and employee satisfaction. And this applies as well for gender diversity in the teams within companies. Yet we know that women find it hard to join the ranks, and that business models in emerging economies aren't always taking into account the diverse populations that they're seeking to work with. Next slide. And all that should help convince you that these are important issues, or maybe you're already convinced, but there's also money in it. We have multiple important international development donors, multilateral development banks, as well as increasingly investors, like your capital, private equity, and in public markets that are creating gender lens funds, impact investing funds, which look at social impact, and increasingly they're combining this money or applying a gender lens to their clean energy funds as well. So there's actually a lot of opportunities for funding as part of if you're including a gender and social inclusion lens. Next slide. And just a very quick overview about what we're talking about when we say gender and social inclusion. Basically, what we want is to ensure that everyone contributes and benefits from markets and institutions in order to overcome energy challenges. And through this process, solve business problems that you are facing in your projects and businesses. When we talk about gender lens investing, that's what a lot of these gender lens investing funds are looking at. They're looking at investing in more women-led businesses, but also for those of you that aren't women-led businesses, they're also looking at products and services that are addressing gender gaps, or in many cases also that are specifically targeted at poor and vulnerable groups or excluded minorities. They're looking at inclusive policies and practices in the workforce, and they are also looking to support women in the value chain or vulnerable groups in the value chain as well. And Norman will tell you a little more about what this might look like in a specific business.
Thank you, Luis. Yeah, well, what we try to do is to make this really practical for businesses and understand how they're actually interacting with women, with excluded groups in general. And we see usually 3 entry points for this work. So this can work for gender inclusion, but also for social inclusion more broadly, considering that excluded groups are quite context specific, so we just group them. But it could be in some areas that excluded groups can, the majority, be represented by internally displaced peoples. It could be persons with disabilities. In others, they could belong to specific ethnic groups, which might even speak different languages. So it's important that you understand the local context that you're going to be working in to be able to identify which excluded groups you're going to focus on in terms of social inclusion. In any case, it is useful to think about how your projects or businesses actually relate with others, and there are 3 entry points to consider when trying to bring down the barriers for inclusion. The first one relates to understanding your customers and women and excluded groups more specifically, and making sure that their perspectives are considered when designing products and services. They might have different levels of influence or decision-making power over purchases, and especially for energy projects, they could represent an important ally in the adoption of new solutions. The second entry point is related to supporting businesses led by women or members of excluded groups. Women, for example, have proven to be effective sales agents for energy solutions, especially for those cases when women are the primary users. And finally, taking a look at your own structures, you might find that there are opportunities to build more inclusive teams. Diversity in teams can lead to increased innovation and productivity, improved decision-making, and higher employee satisfaction and retention. The most important issue is also understanding where you're starting from, so understanding the context is quite key. In the coming slides, we're going to go through a few brief case study examples of what some companies have done and what impacts they have received. So back to you, Luis.
Great. So let's go through an example of a pay-as-you-go solar company in Kenya. So they found that they were spending a lot of time in post-product customer service calls, since customers needed more help and had a lot of questions about using the solar panels or installation issues, etc., for their home energy products. So after some success aggregated analysis, they found that 83% of end users were women, even though they were a minority of the buyers. So the men were doing the buying, the spouses, but the women were the primary users. So they decided to make a simple change in their script in their customer service script, so that they could reach end users quickly, right? So they would ask whomever their contact was, who the primary user was, and if they could talk to that person. And this simple change reduced call time by 33% and saved them somewhere in the vicinity of $100,000 to $200,000. So what this proves for us is that sometimes it doesn't have to be applying, gender and social inclusion lens doesn't have to be extremely complicated. It requires sometimes time to think through and diagnose and analyze. And so while we won't, while our time with you and what we can provide you is some, do a few calls with you and think through your application and the issues that you're thinking about, we might not have as much time to do a full analysis of your business. We can help you think through some of these issues and see which parts of your business could apply a lens and could help you solve some of your problems and increase business and social impact. Norman?
And just to add to this example, we find pretty often that energy companies in particular have this relationship with the customer that's commercial. So they have a commercial contract with the customer. Usually these customers are men in most cases. However, when it comes to installations, when it comes to use of the products, when it comes to technical assistance, most of these relationships are done or interactions are done to women. We found that technical teams are mostly composed of men, or are maybe from a particular social group that might not necessarily relate well with the actual primary user. So this has been also another way that companies have improved the way that they reach customers, the way that they provide customer service. So this is just one example that Lisa's sharing of what we've seen, but understanding how you're actually relating to your customers and how you're actually providing support, how you're offering, what kind of messages you're sharing, how you're reaching them. All of these are questions that you need to ask yourselves, and whether these actually are valid, your strategies that you're going to use are valid for those groups in particular, right? So be these people with disabilities, or is it different ethnic groups, or the poor, or women in general, right? So just take this into account. So there's a very important connection between your projects and customers. So how these relationships, gender and social different relationships might interact and make your projects successful or find it more challenging to reach your customers. Another example that we have is primarily focused on social inclusion, and this is not from the energy sector. Merco Couriers is a company in India that actually is dedicated to delivering parcels to clients, and the way that they started, one of the founders found that it was really hard for people with hearing impairments to actually access education, jobs, and any sort of economic activity was quite limited for them. So they also found that it was actually really challenging to move around the cities, and a lot of customers spend a lot of time trying to get the products that they needed. So they came up with a solution, right? So they designed this training program, and this the business model they came up with was entirely about visual interaction, right? So all the communications were done through SMS messages, all of their instructions, all their materials were visual. So this enabled a space, created a space for people with hearing impairments to actually join and generate income for themselves. This was really well received by communities, and they've at this stage they've now grown to 70 employees, and they actually have really important partnerships with international logistics companies. One of them is Amazon. So they're able to provide comparable pricing to their customers. In this case, their primary client is their intermediaries, right? So they're selling their service to the logistics companies, but they're actually providing a really important service to local communities, and they're creating an opportunity for people who were previously excluded from economic activity and now can belong to a team. They can recover some of their dignity, that was stripped down if they are unable to participate, right? So this is one example of how a whole business model was built around social inclusion, right? So we're not necessarily expecting that companies here are going to redesign the whole business model around social inclusion. However, there might be more, a very large proportion of your business might be related to particular groups, and you might find opportunity to grow faster or to generate the impact that you want, or reach this impact a lot faster if you're actually considering these realities in your local contexts. The next example is again in the energy sector. It's an IFC funded program, and this organization was faced with a challenge of very poor adoption rates in India as well. In this case, it's generally known that there's millions of people in India don't have access to electricity. As we saw Nicola say before, there a lot of people are left out of the ability to accessing electricity. So there's also another challenge that last mile distribution for a lot of these energy solutions is quite difficult, right? So they did this gender analysis, so they understand the needs of the communities, but also to understand all these interactions that might happen and how they were affecting adoption rates and also the ability to purchase or acquire their solutions, and all of these questions. So they found that locally based distribution partners would have a lot better impact than a centralized organization. They also found that women influenced the purchasing decision, even though they were not the ones actually making the purchase. They were quite influential in the way that in whether a family was going to acquire an asset or not. Some of these are related to the purpose of the solution. So if it's, for example, lighting, it might be more interesting for women. If it's a TV, for example, a solar solution that offers you a TV, it might be more interesting for men. So there are also differences in terms of the products that you're offering that you might consider. What are the ones that either women or men prefer, or some communities compared to others? If it's an issue of security, maybe lighting is more interesting. If it's an issue of access to education, also lighting is important, but also having access to communication devices. So being able to charge your phone is also going to be important. So a lot of these questions, what's important for your customer, is going to be key for you to understand. And it might differ whether it's a man, a woman, or a person belonging to a specific social group that's been excluded. Limited access to knowledge and capital also affected value chain partners. So that means that people in the value chain or in the distribution network of this organization were unable to actually have enough working capital to either have the assets or show the assets. So this was another key barrier for competing or for being able to reach last mile distribution. Some of the actions that were related to this company is, well, they developed a whole network of women sales agents that they called Solar Sahelis. And they offered training, capacity building, and affordable financing mechanisms for them to be able to bring these products to the last mile, bring these products to the communities. And they actually found that before this intervention has happened and after the intervention happened, the consumer awareness rose from 25 to 60%. 30% of all sales within the first year were actually through this channel, this new channel. And additional income was also funneled through to local communities because the local distributors were involved. And the last example that we wanted to share with you was around internal teams. So how do you make sure that your teams are actually happy and productive and being able to dedicate their full attention to the success of your project or business? Then you might also want to have a look at whether there are any differences in terms of along gender lines, or whether there is a difference between groups, different groups, ethnic groups, or otherwise. This company, Soltuna, found that there were high rates of, well, they were experiencing high rates of absenteeism. They had high turnover, and they also had high labor costs. And well, after doing a gender analysis, they found that personal cash flow issues were pushing for a side hustle. So a lot of people were actually trying to find additional sources of income, so they couldn't dedicate all of their time to the actual work. They were either selling their own tuna through their own channels, or dedicating themselves to other things. There were also very limited career prospects, so it was really hard for women to move to a different position besides being a laborer at the processing facility. And they did a few things, quite a few things actually. They started a financial literacy training program, which actually resulted in them being able to, more of them being able to reach the next payment day with some cash still at hand. So those that reported being unable to have, being able to have some cash available at the end of before the next payment day, rose from 14% to 31%. There was a whole full wage bill increase of 5%, but all of this increase was directed to the lowest earning positions, which were primarily held by women. So this disproportionately affected women positively. They also started recruitment and training programs for women in non-traditional roles. So for example, forklifting. And they were able to, instead of hiring someone from outside, whenever there was a person left the company in one of those non-traditional roles for women, they would recruit internally, and some of these women were moving to different positions. So a lot of them were quite encouraged, right? So all of this changed the whole environment significantly, and they saw a 17% reduction in absenteeism, which is quite significant. They also saw an increase in income for the company of over $1.5 million. Primarily because more of these workers who were also supplying some of the tuna that they got were now channeling this through the company. And they also found that they were saving a lot of money in instead of paying for overtime, instead of finding other people to join when some people were absent, they were able to save $166,000 a year. Right. So these were some of the examples that we wanted to share with you. I know that this was a little bit different from compliance and all these messages that we were sharing before, but I think that what's important here is that we consider two things. First, how we're going to be able to satisfy our funding partners, in this case, this competition, and how this also in turn is beneficial for our project and our business. So in general terms, what we see is that it's really, you might be more creative if you find how this is actually going to help you and not just why this is a requirement. Of course, we also need to consider that to take this seriously, because there's two things. First, you might be able to perform better, but second, it's also required by competition. More, not just this one, but many that are out there, as we was mentioning before. Thank you so much. You see our contact details there. Please reach out. We're going to be available before the next, to provide you with support from now until the submission date. So please reach out. And back to you, Jonathan.
Thank you, Luis. Start my video. A really excellent presentation, which I hope drove home the message that Norman, I beg your pardon, Norman, I called you by the wrong name, was mentioning there at the end. This is not just about ticking boxes. This is about really making your project better and driving value through your business model. So a really valuable presentation there. Thank you for that. Our next presenter is Dr. Charlotte Ray. Charlotte is expert in many fields, but her core expertise lies within the transforming energy access field. So I'm stumbling over my words, and I think that's about the right time to hand over. So Charlotte, over to you.
Hello. Good morning. Can everybody hear me? Let's see if we've got the slides. There we go. Okay, so good morning or good afternoon, everybody, depending where you're joining from. As Jonathan said, my name's Dr. Charlotte Ray. Oh my goodness, technology. I'm currently working with the Low Carbon Energy for Development Network as a consultant, and I will be helping and supporting applicants throughout the application process in further understanding the energy context, energy for development context, as well as supporting applicants on finding project consortia in various contexts. So I'm not going to be very long this morning, because we will be holding another webinar where I'll share the details with you later on. So what is the LCEDN? Not a fabulous acronym, I'll tell you that now, but really it stemmed back in 2011, 2012 from a UK academia perspective. There was lots of academics working in the energy for development field, pretty much working in silos, working on similar energy access issues, looking at various technologies and innovations, also partnering with the same organizations and individuals in different contexts. And as a result, we sort of realized that actually there's this growing network of academics working on these same issues, but actually partnering and having a network of us together actually to share those ideas was really, was essential. Oh my goodness. So yes, so we were founded in 2012. So again, it was initially a UK based sort of network, bringing together all of these UK researchers. But actually, as we started to grow, we realized that we were working with these wonderful and fabulous partners in the Global South, where we were also working. And actually, it was a good idea for us to work and partner with them and share those partnerships with other colleagues, because even though obviously we were working on those issues, we were obviously in our glass houses in the UK, working out from universities, and also sometimes really had trouble understanding the energy context. And so really, like Nicholas said, we've got these whole array of energy access issues. 1 billion people lack the access to modern energy services. Nearly 3 million people lack the access to modern cooking alone, relying on biomass, kerosene, dung, etc. And so basically, to better our research, our impacts, and to really get the energy for development agenda going and recognising academic spheres, we realised that we needed to do better in understanding the energy for development context and what really was going on in the countries and the territories that we were working in. So like I said, we started to build up this very small network of organisations and academics, and actually over the years, as to 2010, we now actually have a searchable directory of international research expertise with over 500 individuals listed online. So this is also a resource that you guys can tap into. Search if you're looking for specific organisations, specific people, specific technologies as well. We are multidisciplinary and multi-sectoral. We pride ourselves on partnering not just with academics, because we know that we can't do this alone, with NGOs, private sector organisations, policy stakeholders and international partners. One thing as the Energy Catalyst competition has really come forward over the years is actually priding itself on international collaborations and international consortia, and that's something we have advocated from the get-go, that you are unable to do this work without the input of experts in their relative fields, in their relative areas of expertise, and also in the countries that we are looking to deploy our technologies and our innovations. So what do we, as the Low Carbon Energy for Development Network, what do we do? So we act as a hub to bring together researchers and a variety of stakeholders, both in the UK, so obviously in this context or previously it's been for UK businesses wanting to deploy technology and innovations overseas, but also at the same time catalysing those collaborations from international partners and organisations who also want to work with UK partners on the same technologies. Oh my goodness. So I apologise. I'm having a mare with the slide deck this morning. I'm afraid. We also actively promote innovative new forms of knowledge. We develop new methodologies. One thing, obviously, I think Norman and Luis has really rightly pointed out in the previous presentation is that we need to use a mix of methods, both quantifying but also qualifying energy for development and also gender and social inclusion. We need to be able to bring together those methodologies within the work that we undertake and also within our business models as well. And we also enhance transdisciplinarity. We pride ourselves working not just with academic partners, but with businesses and with other organisations who have relevant expertise in the field. So we also, within that, we want to build up this research community. You guys and businesses and company directors, employees, etc. We urge you to also join our network because we hold webinars, we hold seminars, we have blog posts for you to be able to showcase the work that you do, but also reach out to find new partners and organisations. So within that, we also act as a repository and conduit for knowledge about energy for development and how to make it more accessible to a global audience. And really, first and foremost, because the LCDN stems out from Loughborough University, we really want to connect the UK academic community to organisations such as private sector actors and policy, so that we can connect these organisations to make the work that we do more transparent and more of an outreach for everybody. So just very briefly, I mean, what do we do as the LCDN? So like I just said, we run workshops, conferences and seminars. We want to drive this network's development, and we also facilitate these networks. And a whole host of organisations from varying sectors in the energy field come together to bring this knowledge. We do state-of-the-field reviews on the existing evidence base. Okay, I'm not touching the slide deck, I promise. I think it might be on a timer. And we also simulate new postgraduate and training programs in order for people to further understand the energy for development context. So we've also worked in a variety of sectors, in a variety of contexts in the past. We've looked at developing new technologies. We've tried to understand the policy challenges, community mobilization, the social barriers of uptaking technology and innovations. One of the big things, the spread of cook stoves, which I see, obviously Nicola is quite new for Round 8, or there's a DFID priority area, but also industrial uses such as agro-industry. We've worked in these contexts. So this then brings me to the Modern Energy Cooking Services Programme, which is a big new 5-year, £40 million programme funded by UK Aid, run out from Loughborough University. My colleague, Professor Ed Brown, is the research director of the programme. And this is to break out of the business as usual cycle of development and cooking, and by investigating how to rapidly accelerate the transition from biomass fuels to clean cooking fuels. Oh, excellent. So what will MEX deliver over the next 5 years? It will deliver a variety of objectives, evidence, research and insights into the drivers and pathways for economic transitions, looking at new technologies to drive the upscale of clean cooking, looking at innovations in business models and SDG tracking. Basically, if those of you are looking into clean cooking solutions, please get in touch with us. We again have a wealth of knowledge and support that we can give you. So quickly, before my computer and the timer decides to throw me off, what can we provide you going forward in Round 8? So basically, we want to support applicants in understanding the energy for development context and how your technologies and innovations can meet energy access needs in the Global South. We are here to help individual companies and consortia find international partners, both technology and country specific. And here, like I said, I've just put a little link to our website where we can find our experts. You can search this directory. You can add yourself to the directory as well. I really implore you to have a look here, but also get in touch with us so we can help you foster those new relationships. But also, we also want to support international applicants find UK admin leads. We know that it's not just about UK businesses going into the Global South, deploying their technologies and innovations. We also know there is a very healthy and thriving private sector base in the Global South, actually at the forefront of these technologies and innovations. So they themselves also have access to this funding, but will need to find UK admin leads. We are here to support you in that quest and to try and assist you as much as possible. And so we also want to support consortia and managing relationships. Now, this is being said by the sort of the team here. Jonathan goes into a lot of detail about what to look for when building together your consortia. We add to that discussion and how you can manage healthy relationships, but also that go forward in the long term, that it's not just a consortia or a partner that you'll use for the duration of this project or this funding, shall we say. It's actually going forward. So what do we do next? So we are going to host a 1-hour interactive webinar on Monday, the 6th of July. Now, I say interactive because, I mean, let's face it, you don't really want me sort of gabbing on for about an hour to your face. That's not what we want. We want you to join us where we will go into further detail about how your technologies and innovations can meet the energy access needs, but also provide you with more context on the energy for development agenda. We will also, as I said, help you to provide the services when building together your consortia. We help you find international partners, but also those UK admin leads. So this hopefully should be online on the B2 Match platform, hopefully at some point, probably tomorrow at the latest, where you'll be able to sign up. But also, in order for us to make it interactive, I would like to encourage you with any questions that you have about the energy access criteria, the context, but also about the queries and questions you have about finding partners. If you are able to send them in to us when you register, that will mean that I and my colleagues will be able to tailor our webinar to better suit your needs in order for us to go forward. So this is now contact details. So my contact details and email, my colleague Ed Brown, but also, as always, please go back to the support email as well as the Energy Catalyst email as well. Again, that's it for me now, but please, I really hope to see a lot of you join next Monday for a more in-depth conversation. So back to you, Jonathan.
Thank you, Charlotte. I must just take a moment at this point to apologise to Charlotte and to viewers on YouTube. We are having some technical difficulties here. Apparently those aren't translating into what can be seen on YouTube because we're partnering with Wizz Air to deliver that service. So whilst the slides are jumping about on our presentation mode here, that's not actually translating into the viewing experience. So while Charlotte was commenting on her slides jumping around, that's not what you were seeing. So I do apologise for that, and to you, Charlotte, for that situation. Just a couple of things to remark on there. A really valuable presentation, and I think if anybody has any doubts about or further interest in what Charlotte was talking about, I would encourage you to go onto the B2 Match platform where the registration is now open, I'm told. And if you haven't encountered B2 Match yet, that's going to come after the next talk by David Aitken. And Jens Böhm is going to talk to you about B2 Match. It's extremely powerful and a really valuable tool to use. So please do pay attention to that. I've been told by our chat moderator that we've had a lot of latecomers. We're now up to nearly 200 viewers on YouTube, which is excellent. Thank you for joining. We're very pleased to see you. There have been a few problems with joining instructions and late registrations. So please be assured that this is being recorded and you can watch the whole thing back on our YouTube channel, and the link will be provided to you after this presentation. So enough of me. I'm going to hand you over now to David Aitken. David is from the Carbon Trust, and he's going to tell you about quite an exciting new innovation for this round. So David, if you could request control of my screen, then I will hand over control to you.
Hi, Jonathan. Great. Thank you.
At the top of the screen, there should be an instruction that says request control. No.
Which is hopefully coming through now.
It has indeed, and I can approve that. Over to you. Thanks.
Great. Thank you, Jonathan. And thank you very much to all the other speakers already. As Jonathan mentioned, I'm David Aitken, Director of Innovation at the Carbon Trust, and delighted to be speaking to you today to introduce the Energy Catalyst Accelerator, which Dr. Nicola Lazenby mentioned in her first talk this morning. So what I'd like to do is just to briefly introduce the accelerator, which is something that some of you may already be familiar with, but for others it's perhaps a little newer. So I'll assume that that people don't have much of any context on the accelerator, and very happy to get into more detail in the questions and answer session that follows, or in a follow-up. And there's an email address for you to follow up on if you have further queries or anything that wasn't clear. So let's just see if great. Thank you. So I'll just briefly introduce the context and where the Energy Catalyst Accelerator sits. And ultimately, the Energy Catalyst is all about accelerating the innovation needed to end energy poverty. And accelerating solutions is at the core of that, and so the grants that you're applying for provide that incredibly valuable financial support to help you to develop, de-risk, and get ready to deploy your solutions into the market. The accelerator provides advisory support alongside that grant support from Energy Catalyst to help you prepare for that commercial deployment and to move faster and learn from others to do that in the way that's likely to maximize your chances of success. So the advice alongside the grant is a key feature of the accelerator, and as well as that advice, we know, as we've heard from various speakers already this morning, how critical it is to build those networks. And so an important part of the accelerator is helping you to develop those strategic partnerships, helping you connect with those potential partners, customers, investors across the energy access ecosystem that can help you bring your new technologies and business model innovations to market. Ultimately, what this Energy Catalyst support in the accelerator in particular is looking to do is to help you to find new ways of helping to improve lives in Africa and Asia, and create economic opportunities there and in the places where you're based, to help address some of the important issues that speakers already this morning have mentioned. And across that wealth of activity and huge breadth and number of projects, as Nicola mentioned in her talk earlier, there's a real opportunity to find what's working, what's not, what else is needed, and to both learn from what's going on in the sector already and to share knowledge back to the sector to help us all to move faster to achieve Sustainable Development Goal 7 around clean energy. So the accelerator is very much set up to help projects that are successful in receiving grant funding. So some of the talks that you've heard earlier today provide that essential help to help you connect with people in potential partners in country, or help you better address gender equality and social inclusion issues in your application. This accelerator support really builds on that, and the grant support that Energy Catalyst provides to help those projects that are successful in receiving support to flourish during the project and beyond. We're conscious that the Energy Catalyst Accelerator is very much operating in an area where there are particular challenges that you're looking to address. Many of the projects are based in the UK or have partners in the UK. There's technology and business model innovations that we're looking at deploying and demonstrating and learning how they work in the field in Africa and Asia. So there's some particular challenges to the Energy Catalyst Accelerator that very much has informed how we've gone about designing the support that's on offer. And really what we're doing with the accelerator is bringing together that specific support that's tailored to help individual challenges that you face, along with collaboration to work on common challenges that you share with others in the Energy Catalyst community, and pulling together those connections and resources to help accelerate company growth. And as you heard from Nicola, the characteristics of the portfolio and the way the Energy Catalyst has provided support has changed over time. The accelerator is flexible to be able to provide the support that's needed to the projects and the partners wherever they're based on the rounds that they've come in on. So in terms of the tailored client support, there's a needs assessment and acceleration plan development that, to get going, helps us to understand with you what are the key priorities for your business, and where are the areas that are important for you to focus on hitting milestones, and for us to help in terms of prioritizing our acceleration support. There's dedicated client managers who work with you and provide that coaching and mentoring support, and that a single point of contact to help unlock the various ways that our delivery consortium can help you. There's areas that we'll dive into in more detail where either you don't have the time or the expertise or the networks to address that issue or to solve that problem on your own, and so we'll work with you to help understand and address that gap and what it means for your business and a strategy and the decisions you may take. So that tailored client support is very much about pulling together that expertise and advice to help you to thrive during your project and beyond. We know from the characteristics of the portfolio and what we've seen already from working with the various companies within it, that while there are some challenges that are specific to your business where that tailored individual support is critical, there's also some common challenges and areas where there's real value in working together in smaller groups, which may be around a particular geographic theme or a sector where multiple companies are looking to address a common problem, or a particular challenge that you face in unlocking opportunities and solving some of the difficulties that energy access innovation faces. So there's a range of ways that the accelerator is set up to help address those common challenges. We have an Energy Catalyst community platform that we're developing and launching by the end of July, which is pulling together a whole range of ways that both within the cohort of companies that the Energy Catalyst supports, there's those opportunities to work more effectively with one another and understand the sector and what's going on within it, as well as to have that portal to the wider world where we can help to raise awareness of what you're doing and help to connect what the Energy Catalyst portfolio is doing with the wider energy access ecosystem. There's common interest groups that we've started to explore and that we'll continue to build on over time, where we bring together companies that do share those common interests in a particular area to work to solve that challenge and to learn from each other and to make faster progress than would otherwise be the case working alone. There's a really important knowledge management and dissemination component to what we're doing on the addressing common challenges side, where we really look to learn from the portfolio and to share learning that we see across the sector and tailor that to what's most relevant to you, as well as a whole range of workshops, webinars, collaborations to help that working around addressing those common challenges. So both the tailored client support and the collaboration to address common challenges are really important. We also know that the connections and the resources that provide a way for you to speak to others in the sector and to dip into resources as and when is most convenient to you are also really important. So we've been developing a range of commercialization guides with links to reports that enable you to dive into more detail in those areas that are most of interest to you. And so we've been developing that across a whole range of countries and regions, as well as what's going on in particular sectors, or how you can think about addressing some of those important challenges that we know from the portfolio already are critical to address around investment and other areas. There's case studies that we're starting to pull together to raise the awareness of not only individually what the companies are doing in the portfolio, but also how there's that momentum in the portfolio to addressing some really important areas in the sector, and multiple companies developing innovations to address those challenges, as well as insights through podcasts, videos, and other and other mediums, as well as introductions and access to events, virtual largely at the moment. Hopefully, in-person events over time that again help you to build those connections to help you to meet those potential partners, customers, investors that can help you to go further and faster. In terms of the tailored client support, I think the main thing to highlight here is that we recognise the challenges that each individual company faces are different. Broadly, we think they fall into these 8 areas. Very much the support that we provide to you is very much shaped up to address the specific challenges that you face in these different areas. And we know that, for example, around the strategy and business planning and the supply chains and operation, the market understanding, the financial strategy and capital raising, there's some really specific and difficult challenges to address in this sector, and very, very much the tailored support that we provide is looking to help you address some of those key gaps that we discover with you through the needs assessment and acceleration planning, and over time through working with you as you progress the development of your solution, and we find out more about how it may fit in the market. Alongside that tailored client support, the knowledge management services really are designed to help you to learn from others in the cohort and beyond in the wider sector, and to move further than you would otherwise be able to do with less risk and with more speed than would otherwise be the case. So there's a range of market intelligence that will provide around research and insights that we're finding from the market, and sharing those with you as we go along. That suite of information and resources that we not only develop but also maintain over time, so that it remains up to date and relevant, and signposts you to the areas where you can find out more around some of the key areas in the sector. The networking support, I think this is something that you're already engaged in as you think about who you can partner with on your project. The accelerator support is very much designed to build from that and to help connect you with others that can help you to succeed as you build on the collaborations that you've already established to get ready to deploy into the market, and then making sure that we have an ongoing learning process with you and with Innovate UK and other partners to make sure that we're continuing to evolve and refine the services that we're providing over time, to make sure that we provide the best support to you and those who follow. I'll just briefly talk about the consortium that we've pulled together. I won't go into all the detail on this slide. I think the main thing to remember is there are a range of different components that are coming together here, from the client management support, so working with you to provide coaching help through us and Eigen Ventures. There's regional specialists, so Energy for Impact and Telecap and New Energy Nexus, that provide those important in-country insights and connections to understand what's going on in these different markets. There's a really strong finance component where Open Capital Advisors leads on that for us, as well as those critical knowledge management and communications and digital learning areas that Energy for Impact and Power for All lead, and a whole range of specialist expertise that we can draw from, some of whom you've heard from today. So Value for Women on the gender equality and social inclusion side, also legal help, technology, and intellectual property, and a whole range of other areas, as well as local partnering support from African Management Institute, and really a wealth of other expertise that that we're able to draw on across the consortium to address particular challenges that you may face. Perhaps just to help sort of bring that to life, I'll just mention a few of the partners as examples, but very much very much just to try and give you a bit more of a flavour for some of the partners in the consortium. And very much this consortium was built with the perspective of helping to bring together the leading organisations across the sector with the expertise and insights and connections to help you to grow and be successful. So perhaps just to bring some of these organisations to life. We have Energy for Impact as one example, who's our Africa region and knowledge management lead. They're a non-profit organisation focused on off-grid energy in Sub-Saharan Africa. They've been in this game for many years and have helped support over 5,000 SMEs and micro enterprises in energy access markets. They've had fantastic impact on the ground in terms of the number of people they've improved access to energy for, and some of the other impacts around jobs and carbon savings and various other metrics. Very importantly for us, they've got 80 folks on the ground in Sub-Saharan Africa across 5 offices in East and West Africa, as well as a small head office in London. And you can see from the map there that there's various places where Energy for Impact is based and or has been delivering projects that really provide that on the ground experience of some of the difficult challenges that you're looking to address. Alongside Energy for Impact, just to sort of bring to life one of our other partners, our finance lead, Open Capital, is a management consulting and financial advisory firm that's also in terms of where their footprint is very much anchored around Africa. So they've got a team of more than 120 people across Eastern, Southern, and West Africa in terms of the markets they're able to cover. They've been working in this space for the last decade, and while they don't focus specifically on energy access, they've got deep expertise in energy access, local market opportunities, and working not only with businesses but with investors and development organisations around catalysing the sector. And their energy access practice has completed over 150 engagements in the sector and has catalysed more than $250 million of capital. So some nice complementary expertise that Open Capital brings alongside Energy for Impacts, and that real on the ground presence to help provide those insights that help you to scale. And just to give you a third example, and then I'll wrap up, the regional lead for South Asia in Telecap, who's also our developer of the Energy Catalyst community site. Again, a really strong footprint in South Asia, a whole range of activities that they deliver there, as well as the other markets that they operate in Africa and Southeast Asia. So the work they do around knowledge and problem solving and channeling capital and helping to build the sector is something that is very much a mix that complements the other partners in the consortium, and again brings the expertise that will help those projects that for example are looking at South Asia to really make sure they're tapping into the key market needs on the ground, and the people that can help those projects and what happens after the project be successful. So yeah, as I said, this is very much 3 examples of the partners in the consortium, just to help give you a little bit more of a feel for the support that some of our delivery consortium is able to bring alongside the work that Carbon Trust as the lead in the consortium is delivering. As I mentioned, there's a whole range of other partners that we haven't, due to time constraints, been able to go into. But we're really delighted to be working with all the partners that we noted on the consortium overview slide, and very, very much interested in hearing from you around any queries or feedback that you have, and that is it from me. So over to you, and back to you, Jonathan. Thanks everyone for listening, and good luck with your applications.
David, a really excellent presentation there. Thank you, and I think it drives home just how much Energy Catalyst is evolving as a program. Such value there, such depth of contacts with really excellent consortium members, and I think that's quite an exciting innovation for anybody that's looking to apply to this competition, to have the opportunity to engage with such a rich, what's the word I'm looking for, network of anyway, blah. Right, stop improvising, stick to the script. Jens Berm is going to talk to us now about the B2 Match platform, which is central to how we're delivering this round of Energy Catalyst. As a result of the cancellation of the physical visits which we were going to undertake, we have innovated, and it has proved to be a really valuable innovation. So Jens, hopefully you're there, hopefully you're ready to take control and put me out of my misery.
Thank you, Jonathan. As the title says, virtual brokerage, the theme for the next 10 minutes. Virtual brokerage, also referred to as matchmaking, is a quick and easy way for people to find each other. Well, particularly people looking for new and potential collaboration partners. So what it aims at is collating information about someone's expertise, what they can bring to the table. Let's call them an offer. Let's call that an offer on one side, and what people are looking for or what they need, which is a request on the other side, and then enable the parties to find mutual ground, arrange a meeting, and then have perhaps 20-30 minutes to discuss whether there is a potential in collaborating and starting a project. So the next slide. That doesn't seem to have moved yet. Let me try again. Okay, so with regards to the matchmaking, it's best done with a support tool, and for the Energy Catalyst here, we're using a website called B2Match, which highly automates the process of these, introducing people to each other, helping people to find each other. So what you're looking at this slide is what the website looks like, information about the Catalyst itself, the eligibility also covered with a reference then to the competition website, and lots of other interesting aspects which I'm going to cover. There are 5 main steps here. One is the registration profile setup, then the competition country-specific webinars attendance. The third one is about browsing profiles of other attendees. Fourth, then sending and receiving meeting requests, and where it all culminates is the virtual meeting to discuss mutual interests and possibility of collaboration. So that roughly what I'm going to cover. To get started, there is a green button if you've not visited the website before, which says register now. On the slide you're looking at, it says that the registration closes on the 29th of June. So considering that there might be people here today which are new to the B2Much website and want to take advantage of the more than 800 people we have currently registered, we extend the registration so that you still can join and browse and meet. So the 5 steps. First one, registration. When you sign up, there are questions which guide you through the setup of your individual corporation profile. So you provide your name, a photo, your organization, what type of organization you're representing, let it be an SME or a university or an NGO or others. You provide a logo, a domain, a website which people could, if they wanted to, click on for further information, as well as describing what your business does. And there is a selection of keywords which allow you to select the business field or the area of activity within the range of industries or areas the Energy Catalyst covers. Recommendation here is to be clear and concise, so that the profile helps you raise your visibility on the platform. In basic terms, describe who you are, what you can offer, what you can bring to the table, and who you want to meet. Doing this, your now good profile will generate significantly more meeting requests than if you leave the information rather spare or don't provide enough. The profile is visible before, during, and after the event. So it's a very powerful tool to identifying potential collaboration partners. Once you've done the initial registration, this will allow you to participate in an event to the extent that you can browse the agenda, see what, like in the last 4 weeks, what country-specific webinars or competition briefing events like we have today are on, as well as looking at the days where people are supposed to meet. So on the top of the navigation where you see agenda, it shows you what's going on any given day, and it allows you to move items from the event agenda into your own agenda. So let it be the briefing events, which you'll find under Innovate UK, instead of highlighting a specific country, and then you could move that into your agenda. If you're interested in any of the in-country specific webinars, which are listed here, they've all been recorded and are available on the homepage of the B2Much Energy Catalyst website under recorded sessions. And there they are categorized in countries and then presented there. So taking part in the webinars or looking what was presented on other countries, this is not where the website ends. And what I want to talk about is how can you get more out of it? How can you present yourself as best as you can, and how can you identify other partners? So for that, in addition to the information you provided, there is another step, which is called the marketplace. And you have to consider the marketplace as something like a virtual shop window. The shinier, the brighter, the nicer it is, the more participants will be interested in talking to you. And on this marketplace, you have 3 options to present yourself. One is expertise you can bring to a project. One is particular project you want to talk about itself. And another one is a request. All of those ideally clear and coherent. And you explain what are the advantages, innovative aspects. Why is your project interesting? Why do people should be talking to you? Particularly if you have specific requirements or requests, it is very useful if you provide sufficient detail for a potential partner to know whether they can actually help. So just to make the conversations you may have more effective, more meaningful, the more you put in here, the more you will get out later on. So recommendations, be clear and concise, be active, not reactive. So put something in because you get more out of it. What does it look like? So in the following the initial registration, there are further options down, such as adding an expertise or adding a project cooperation or adding a request. And you can provide a title, on this example here, project cooperation, a description about the project. You can provide the stage, is it early, medium or late stage, and also go into a keyword selection about the topics you want to address, which then later will help people identifying out of the number of all the registrants, other participants, who and about what they would want to talk to. So what does it look like? On the horizontal navigation there on the top of the page, you see, in addition to the homepage, participants, which allow you to find out who's offering interesting, promising business opportunities. What I would describe as intelligent search functions here. It allows you to narrow down the field of the participants. So you can search by country, organization, or participation type, as well as business fields, which then allows you to narrow down the number to only show people relevant in a specific area. And then the marketplace allows you to look at the specific expertise or a project or a request which people submitted. So again, narrowing down from a wide range of participants to exactly those you should be talking to. And then once you've narrowed down, you click on a piece of project provided or the expertise listed, etc. And it shows you the profile of that person, including their description about the company, as well as then the further details. So here on the marketplace, you see the stage of the project. What I mentioned before, you can narrow down by that, but also many others. Once you clicked on a person, it will allow you two means of contact. One is a message, and the other one is a meeting request. So you browse published participants, and then the ones you'd like to meet, you send them a meeting request. What we recommend is that you add a meaningful remark, put in why they should be meeting with you, following a meeting request, which will be relayed via email, as well as internally on the Too Much Energy Catalyst website. They will then see the request you added, but also get a link to your own profile. So to find out more about you and whether to accept the meeting request. The page for the meeting requests where you organize and keep it all on track looks like what you see right now. If you receive a meeting request, it will be you who can decide when this meeting takes place. On the slide in front of you, the green button there shows that my meetings have ended. If your meetings are still scheduled, let it be for tomorrow or another day, then there would be a countdown listed with how many more hours, or on a shorter period of time, how many more minutes are there to go. And you can reschedule meetings mutually within your availability. So these are the options you have under the meeting screen. What's important to notice here is mutual availability. So on the availability button, if I can call it that, highlighted here with a red arrow, it shows you when you are available for meetings with others. And on that occasion, I'm not available tomorrow. So if I wanted to meet somebody tomorrow, I couldn't actually send a meeting request, because since I'm not available, the system won't allow me. If you wanted to send me a meeting request, that won't be possible even if you're available, because I'm not. So what I have to do is make myself available for meetings. And this is something what we recommend everybody to do. make yourself available and sort out the actual time slots when a meeting can take place during said date at a later stage, just to allow this mutual overlap, this time when both of you or both of the interested parties are available for a meeting. The other means of contact is a messaging service. So this is very straightforward. You send somebody a message, the person will receive a notification in their inbox, but also if they're online on the website, they can see the email or the message in there. Yeah, it's straightforward, as you can imagine. What does the meeting itself look? So you saw the green button, countdown, and now your meeting takes place. You click on it and the meeting will be held within your browser window. So there's no tools or extra tools needed. It's all taking place in your browser window. What you need is a microphone and a camera, like for any other meeting as well. What it allows you here is you can copy the link of the meeting and send it to another member of your staff. If you wanted to bring in another person, want to have a meeting not only between 2, but between 3 or more people. You can also share your screen, which I added a couple of screenshots here within this image. It would be a little icon on the bottom, screen sharing, which you might be familiar with from other sites. Which then allows you to look at the same document from different angles or participants. And on the top right, where you see here the 7:21, this is a countdown timer which goes down until the initial scheduled meeting time will come to an end. What you can't do through these meetings here is overrun and extend it. The meeting will finish when it's come to an end. So yeah, please keep an eye on that. It should be possible to, with this big green bar or square on the top right, to keep on track of it. But yeah, that definitely something to keep in mind. And what's also needs to be said is you can't have a second meeting with the same person through the platform. So during your initial meeting or then exchanging contacts, we recommend that you agree on where do you take the conversation from here if you're interested to do so. With that said, happy matchmaking and a quick summary, just to say what's been covered in the last couple of slides. So please consider the B2Match virtual marketplace as your virtual shop window for the Energy Catalyst to participate in finding partners to build around or together with your project. What we recommend is that you be clear, concise with the details you provide to increase your visibility, and that you are active and not just sit there and wait for others to find you. So please do attend webinars, browse the agenda for what else is going to be provided over the upcoming weeks, browse profiles, look at, we at the time of doing this presentation, we have more than 800 people on the platform. So I'm fairly confident there is somebody you should be talking to, and perhaps there are people who want to talk to you but don't know about it yet. So if you get your own details on there, that should get things started. Make yourself available for meetings, and happy matchmaking. I hand to Jonathan.
You do indeed, Jens. Thank you very much for that, and apologies for moving your slide on a little earlier than intended. So you've decided that this is a competition for you because you fit the scope. You know how to go about applying because you listened very carefully to what Carl told you. You know that you can incorporate all the various aspects of transforming energy access and gender equality and social inclusion. Who should you work with? I'm going to quickly give you a few ideas regarding that, how you go about building a consortium. Well, you know how to, because Jens just told you that, but who should you work with? Easier said than done. Slides will advance. So, well, the first question is, do you need to work with anybody? There are a very limited set of circumstances in which you can apply a loan as a UK-based SME only. But having said that, it is strongly encouraged to include international partners for obvious reasons. So please do bear that in mind when you look at applying. So you've determined that you do need a partner. Perhaps you have those already. You might have worked with people previously, in which case, great. But consider the specific project that you're working with. It may be that you've got organizations that you're familiar with from previous projects, but no two projects are identical. If they were, they wouldn't be funded. So please rethink your scope from scratch and identify any gaps. So perhaps you don't have any partners yet. Let's have a look at how you might go about finding the right ones. We touched on diversity through the presentation from Value for Women, but please remember that the specific eligibility criteria are a minimum. You shouldn't just go and hunt partners that allow you to tick the box. I think that was brought home very clearly by Nominum and by Luis. You should only add partners that add value to the consortium. And that comes through clearly in your presentation, through your submission, your application to the competition. It's very easy to spot people who've been tagged on just to add diversity. So please explain what the value is that they bring and why those particular partners are best placed to deliver it. It's very easy just to tag people on because you want to make it look impressive, but you need to ensure that you get the mix right. Yes, you need innovation. That's the microscope there. But you also need to be able to implement what it is that you're aiming to do. So please consider how you're going to enact what your project aims to do in the field. And that's the spanner there. But also remember that this is about making businesses in the ultimate scenario. We're looking for deployment of what is developed as a result of participation in Energy Catalyst. So always think about the business model that wraps around what you do. So a few things to look for in your consortium partners. It depends what you're doing, of course. If you're undertaking research and development or testing in country, then do you know where you want to work? We quite often get requests for partnering assistance saying, I need to find somebody to work with on solar. Well, there's a whole world out there with lots of sunshine and need for energy. You need to refine your ask a bit more. If you do know which country or countries you want to work in, do you know any organizations there already? Do you understand the regulations and the governance issues around energy access in those countries? If not, then you need to do some research, and that could be through B2 Match. It could be through asking the various partners supporting Energy Catalyst. And of course, there's the various tools at your disposal through the internet and other arrangements. So a very important part of research and development in country is to have access to facilities or environments Please consider that when you're putting your consortium together. Terribly important to be able to demonstrate your technology or business model. And again, remembering back to the briefcase in the previous slide, you must intend to use the results. And that will be looked at very carefully by the assessors. So yes, remember that your choice of partners should help you to demonstrate that deployment is likely. So it's very important that whoever you work with is credible. The credibility of organizations in the consortium is scrutinized, and there is a very clear impetus for you to do that in advance of the submission, because it will be picked up quickly, and you don't want to waste your energy. So please bear in mind that whoever you work with should be a legal entity, but that needn't necessarily be a business. Do they have a trading history, for instance? Now, that doesn't disbar startups or new companies, but it's quite important that we are able to demonstrate easily that the organizations you're working with are not just invented for the purpose of the challenge. And again, you won't be disbarred if you haven't participated in Energy Catalyst or similar previously. However, it is to your advantage if you can demonstrate that that's the case. And very important is whether you have the capacity to deliver. This is scrutinized. If you are a very small organization and you're looking for a lot of money to undertake a lot of work, we'll want to be convinced that you have the resources and the people capacity to actually undertake what you've promised to do. And then thirdly, what we call the X factor, or what I call the X factor. And this is the less tangible bits. So you may have determined that it's a legal entity and that they've got a trading history, they've got the capacity to deliver. But think, after you've met with them through your B2Match engagements, or however it is that you communicate, can you see yourself working with these people for a long period? Similarly, if there's more than 2 partners in the consortium, can you see your partners working together? Do you sense any friction between them? Remember, of course, that it won't always be plain sailing. There will be issues to overcome, and you need to be sure that you'll have each other's backs. So if you can see yourself working together as a team, that's fantastic. Just make sure that you've got compatible objectives, you're all pulling in the right direction, or the same direction at least. And think about aspects such as how enthusiastic people are and how they present themselves. Are they professional? And because of the risks of working with people that you've never met, that you haven't engaged with previously, pick up on those signals that you intuitively will do when you talk to people. Does what they're saying ring true, or does it ring alarm bells, and do they have the appropriate grasp of detail? So overall, once you've done all the hard work and the tangible stuff, does the organization feel right? And if it doesn't, then it's probably not worth doing it, because there'll be a lot of heartache and trouble to come if it all falls apart. So if I haven't put you off already, then you might want to have a look at our Good Application Guide published by Knowledge Transfer Network. It's on our website. I won't go through this slide in detail because we're a little behind schedule now. But these are the topic headings that the guide covers, and I'll just quickly touch on that last one, the right kind of risk. It's very often the case that people try to dismiss risk in their application. That shouldn't be the case. If you're proposal is entirely risk-free, you're applying to the wrong competition. Because if it's risk-free, you can go to the bank and get funding. What we want to see, what the assessors want to see, is that you have really taken consideration of the risks that are involved and that you have plans in place to mitigate those. If you can communicate that, that is key to a good submission. And please remember that you're writing for human beings, and if it reads well, that makes it a lot easier to assess. Finally, a few hints about writing the submission. I can't emphasize this strongly enough. Every time we run a competition such as this, people will try to massage their pet project to fit with the scope. Please don't. You need to answer the question asked, not the one that you want to answer. Again, remember that assessors are human beings, so if it reads well, that will help. And generally speaking, assessors are looking for reasons to award marks rather than to mark an assessment down. So reflect the language of the scope. If you make any claims, particularly regarding numbers, reference any kind of evidence that you can to make sure that those claims stack up. There's a picture of a lady on the right-hand side. What on earth has this got to do with writing a submission? This is what I call the auntie test. So it needn't necessarily be your aunt, but find somebody who doesn't know about the project. Somebody that hopefully is interested in what you do, but isn't living and breathing your work. So this is the sense check. Does it make sense to somebody who hasn't seen it before? Ask somebody else to read a draft. So it's very easy to overlook your own poor grammar or bad spelling or missing words. If you've read something several times, you do get word blind. So please, if you can, give it to somebody else to have a read before you get there. And reread the competition scope before you read the draft so that you have the scope in your head and you can recognize any points at which it doesn't match. I touched on risk and reward previously, so I won't go on about that again, except to say that the fact I've mentioned it twice means that it is very important. Great, so that actually marks the end of our formal presentations today, and hopefully you're still on board and you still think that you're going to put in a submission for round 8. Just to help convince you that that is the case, we've got a couple of case studies now of companies that have previously been through the Energy Catalyst process. And you can hear from them directly about their experiences. After we've heard from them, we will open up for questions and answers which have been submitted via the YouTube chat. So please rest assured that we are going to come to those. My fingers are firmly crossed that we have the first of our presenters with us. So John O. West, I can see, just popped up in my presenters. So Jono, I'm going to hand over to you now if you can tell us about the experience of mobile power.
Thank you, Jonathan. Yeah, that's fantastic. Yeah, I'll just start off by saying that I'll be honest with you guys that we failed on our first, I think 12, 15 grant applications. And just as Jonathan's been going through, one of my first sort of tips would be to be really brutal about whether you fit the criteria and this grant application is for you. And I found that I would read applications thinking, oh yes, definitely we fit this, and then apply and fail. And particularly because in the energy access space, there are a lot of solar home systems and mini grid funding opportunities, and our solution was neither. but when I read the application, I always thought we fit, whereas actually we weren't eligible. So that would be, really, start with that point. But Energy Catalyst was the perfect fit for us. Mobile Power was set up to provide affordable, clean power to off-grid mobile phone users. And we do that by installing solar charging hubs in villages and then renting out batteries, smart batteries, for people to take home to charge their phones, lights, watch TV, and at a price point that is 75% less than how much they have to pay for charging phones on diesel generators. So we kept applying for these applications and failed. I think we did 2 or 3 Innovate UK funding opportunities, which we failed. So by the time Energy Catalyst 6 came along, we actually had a product in the field, and we naturally fit into the late stage funding. So that meant we had to find 55% match funding. And then we had to build a consortium with other partners who also had to find a huge chunk of funding. And actually one of our partners was of the size they could only get 35% grants. So we were trying to bring in people, quite a high bar to entry, that if you, we'd love you to be part of this, but actually you're going to have to put quite a lot of money in yourselves. And that meant that we created a consortium of partners who had real strong skin in the game, who were really committed, common purpose, common vision. One did pull out 24 hours before the deadline, which created some issues, and we had to bring the subcontractor. But my advice would be, don't look for partners who are just in it for some free money. Look for partners who are in it because you are all fighting the same battle. You're all trying to do the same thing, and you're all fully committed to that. The other part that was key for us was the whole gender piece, and we had found, one thing I'll add to what's already been said is that there is a real strong commercial case to employ women as energy entrepreneurs, not just a moral case. And we had seen that through our early pilots, but we'd also seen that when you empower a woman, you disempower a man potentially, and that can lead to, other issues. So my work previously with microfinance saw that there was an increased sort of domestic violence where you were giving women loans. So and we had a couple of cases early on, and so thankfully, as part of Energy Catalyst 6, we were able to employ a full-time gender equality support officer called Bintu, who spends her time going into the villages, training female agents, training the whole community in terms of what their role is, and really trying to support them and encourage them, and also keep in touch with them every couple of days on WhatsApp to make sure that they have the protection and the training they need to be able to do that role. And that's now just really beginning to take off with some bespoke training that the application, the grant project funded. So yeah, my advice there was make sure you mitigate any risks of your intervention, that you make sure you do no harm when you're going into these villages, as a key takeaway. And my tips for writing the bid, again, I think Jonathan said it so well, so I don't want to spend too much time on this, but it's hard when you live and breathe your own technology not to see it through that lens, and actually to try and look through the lens of the people who have written the application. And you might have, you might read a sentence and you think it means one thing, but they think it means something very different. So getting outsiders to read it, the auntie test, and I think KTN offers that as a service, which we found very, very helpful. And try and fit your wording as closely to their wording. So actually break down the question into paragraphs with the words they've used in the questions. And don't just reuse old paragraphs from business plans or marketing material, and rewrite everything afresh, and make sure it does actually answer the question, as Jonathan said. So what happens after you've won? We had some issues with financial due diligence. We had a partner fail. In the end, they had to come in with zero budget because they were that committed. Do you have enough cash in the bank? It's monitoring your cash flow. So at the point they do the financial due diligence, you have that enough cash to cash flow the first quarter. And it's building the right rigor in your companies to be able to to be able to undertake the sort of the accounting, the independent accounting reports, all the different reporting that's required, and choosing partners who can also do that. So we partnered with a large American NGO. They really struggled with their independent accounting report because they had an American NGO, American accounting company working with the Sierra Leonean accountants, trying to do something under UK accounting law. And that took about 12 months, almost, yeah, sank everything. And we also, you know, one of our key partners for our Energy Catalyst 7 project is a local NGO in Freetown, Sierra Leone, made up of women who were in the sex industry. They're trying to create alternative employment for women, and one of them was to become tuk-tuk drivers. And one of our new products is electric tuk-tuk run by our batteries using a battery swap model. So we went and talked to them about providing them with the tuk-tuks if they, you know, were able to bring the women and train them, and so we could do this whole gender empowerment piece. But the problem was they had no bank account. Everything was done in cash. They had no accounting principles or policies. So it's how do you work with an NGO like that and still fit under, you know, the policies that run the project? In the end, we had to bring in a Danish NGO to work as an intermediary, and they were willing to run that role. But even they struggled to understand the English to do with the legal agreements that they were signing, understanding payment in arrears. They could not get their heads around that. And, you know, it's been, we've had to do a lot for them. And they were one step removed from actually the frontline women that we were trying to help. So it's trying to find good partners who are bought in and have the right abilities and structures to be able to run the grant project as you go along. And you do get a lot of help from your monitoring officer around the whole administration of the project and chatting through each issue as they come up. We have about 500 to 600 lines of components we use in our hub, so making sure that was accounted in the right way, that fit in the right time to put into the application was a huge piece of work for our accountants and our monitoring officer. But we've found a way to get around that. But the role of the monitoring officer isn't just administrational. Our monitoring officer, Roger Buffton, actually introduced us to other project consortiums, and we've ended up coming in with 2 others. And that's led to us launching in 2 new markets. And actually, through that consortium, we met an investor who's coming in on this investment round. So that all came through Roger Buffton. So we're very grateful for the connections. Yeah, and how do you keep the consortium going? How do you move as one? How do you get the right level of reporting that's not too arduous? How do you cope with times of storming or misunderstandings through, you know, just different languages, people interpreting concepts in a different way? And that's been our challenge. But I think also because we were able to partner with Winch Energy, who are a mini grid company who were interested in our project, we were aligned, and we've been able to sort of move together, you know, with the aim that we would be able to put a MOPO hub on all the Winch mini grids going forwards. And so I suppose for us, it's been a sort of daily list of problems which we've had to solve to keep the consortium going. There's always issues. Nothing is ever straightforward, but it has been worth it. For us, it's been brilliant. Like, I think I was just looking at our data dashboard, and last night we had 875 households in Sierra Leone who rented our batteries to run their lights, to charge their phones. And some of those households up to, you know, 10 people. So almost 8,000 people were using our batteries. And we're employing female agents who have been trained through Bintu, our gender equality officer, and that's all been financed through Innovate UK. Yeah, as I say, we're doing another Energy Catalyst 7 project with electric tuk-tuks and motorbikes, and Carbon Trust have helped us through the support project with our fundraise, which we're in the process of closing, and that's been amazing support. And, you know, we did our Energy Catalyst 6 as late stage to demonstrate scalability in order to attract debt, and Innovate UK have now come in and with a loan to continue to roll out across Sierra Leone and Liberia. So for us, it's been a great experience. It's been hard work, but it's been well worth it. And yeah, we're really grateful to Innovate UK, Carbon Trust, KTN for all the support we've received.
Thank you, Jono. That's high praise indeed, and a wonderful presentation. It's almost like you'd read my slides beforehand. I can assure you, you hadn't. But it's nice when the messages tie up and reflect what's been said online. So please, if you've got any questions, get them down in the chat box now. Jenny's compiling those for after our next guest presenter speaks. Thank you once again, Jono. I can see Hendrik is there and ready to go. I'm hoping that Alex is also online. So Alex Stensmore and Hendrik Schluermann work for Zonke Energy. I hope that I pronounced that correctly or roughly correctly. And there is Alex now. Excellent stuff. So gentlemen, I'm going to hand over to you. Please take it away.
Thanks, Jonathan, and thanks, Jono, for your presentation. I hope you can hear me. Right, good. Yeah, we are probably a bit earlier on in the process than Jono West, who just talked to us before this. I'm Hendrik Schluermann, and yes, you did pronounce the name of Zonke Energy quite correctly. Zonke Energy is a social enterprise. We are for profit. We're based in Cape Town, and we, by the means of mini grids or microgrids, we want to provide energy in urban settlements, informal settlements in South Africa. Our clients are typically residents that have been living without grid-connected electricity for many years. The reason for that is because they live in areas where the local power utility cannot collect them for a number of reasons. They're maybe too close to a nature reserve, they may be on private land, they may be close to a road reserve or in a flooded area. So they cannot be connected. Even though they live very close to the grid, they cannot be connected. We started this, Alex and I started this together. Well, Alex joined a little later, I started it. It was started in 2016. Alex is going to take over from me on this presentation a little later. And we were asked just to tell a little bit of our story today, in particular with the EPSRC grant. So we were successful in raising a grant money in November last year. And Alex is going to tell us a little bit what are we going to do with this money and how we applied for it and the challenges, the application. I just want to maybe say a few more words about Zonke Energy. So we started it in 2016. What we have presently is a pilot microgrid here in Cape Town, where we serve a very small number of clients with DC power. They use this power to have lights, cell phone charging, and they watch TV. It's on a prepaid basis, so they go to a local spaza shop or to one of the retailers, larger retailers, make a payment, and then have power for either a week or a month. We applied probably last year for the EPSRC grant. In order to do so, we partnered with a UK company, Iron Ventures, and again, Alex will tell us a little more how we found them. I just want to maybe finish off before I pass over to Alex that this has been an excellent process for us, and we're just starting off now. Obviously, as a result of the virus, things have been a little bit delayed, but we are now purchasing equipment, and we're finding a community that's interested to work with us to host the system and to pilot it that we're working on. Alex, over to you.
Yeah, great, thanks. Yeah, it's a real pleasure to be able to speak about our experience, and yeah, I hope it's helpful and you find it informative. So yeah, we're a mini grid operator, and you know, we tend to be somewhat technology agnostic. You know, our innovation or our core is understanding our customers, and we implement technology in order to iterate through our business ideas and through our observations with our clients. and so we felt that process wasn't moving fast enough with our technology partner prior to the application. And so that's what really spurred our interest in developing some of our own technology to allow us to have full control over our business model and our approach to our customers. So yeah, we applied in round 7 last year. And one of the key points I think I'd like to make for us, the matchmaking platform was really key. And having watched the presentation a few minutes ago, I can see it's advanced a long way. And so I'd really recommend taking advantage of that platform. If you're like us, where you're not in the UK, you're in the field, and you're looking for partners that are in the UK, do take advantage of that, walk through that process. That's how we found Ion Ventures, and it's been a real pleasure working with them. Yeah, so definitely do take advantage of that. We applied for an early stage grant, and I see in our cohort that we're in good company. There were quite a few early stage grantees. It's been the process even after the application. There is a few steps that you have to walk through, as Jono mentioned, but we found that process did refine our application, because you realize you make certain promises and certain you have certain ideas of how you're going to do things, and then when really the rubber hits the road and you really dive into it, this second process really helps you make sure that you have a detailed plan in place, that you have an idea of how you're going to walk through it. And so I think it makes your project more successful by walking through that process after you complete the application. Also, just to another point to reiterate that Jono spoke of, your monitoring officer. So there's somebody who's assigned to you if you're successful, who's is sort of they make sure they're monitoring the process, so they're making sure you're stepping through everything correctly. So in some point that they're working with you on compliance, but they're sort of your advocate as well. They, or at least for us, we found that our monitoring officer has been really tremendously helpful in making sure we understand the requirements, always available to make some of that bureaucracy that comes along with it much easier. So that's been really tremendously helpful. I'd also say that one of the really pleasant surprises that I found with the Energy Catalyst has been what I might call the fringe benefits. So I think probably if you're like me, you're focused a lot on the cash that comes along and what that allows you to do. But they have the Energy Catalyst Accelerator, and as I mentioned, your monitoring officer, and there's just a lot of especially the accelerator is really business model support. You have people who come in and really do a deep dive into your business, help you identify opportunities, and then actually you're provided with manpower and resources to go do the research, do the processes to help you really turn those opportunities into something that you can really get off the ground. And so that's really exciting. That's another benefit that you should really be aware of and consider if you're interested in applying to the fund. Otherwise, I mean, for us, we've just wrapped up the first quarter of our project. I mean, as Hendrik mentioned, it's been a little bit slower than we would have hoped, but we have some prototypes that have come through. We have some software that we've got a framework for. So it's really exciting for us that we're really making something tangible out of this. And it's been a really good process. And I think, I mean, as Jono said, look carefully, make sure this is right for you. Make sure that you're applying, early stage, mid stage, late stage. I think look carefully and make sure you can understand and lean on maybe it's the knowledge transfer network or your other resources that I found that they've been quite helpful in giving you feedback during the application process so that you're applying to the right stage. But yeah, I think if it fits for you, it's been a great process for us. So good luck. Thanks.
Alex, I just wanted to maybe add one thing that came to my mind now, and that is just keep in mind that your costs will only be reimbursed at the end of the quarter. So it can actually be up to 4 months before the money that you're spending on your project is back in your bank account. And you know, it may or may not be a cash flow challenge for you. In our case, we had to think quite carefully how to organize our cash flow in such a way that that doesn't cause impasses. So just keep in the forefront of your mind that at the end of a quarter, you will submit a reimbursement statement, and only after that, let's say maybe a month after that, you will receive money spent back in your account.
A very, very good and practical point to end on. Thank you, Hendrik, and thank you also to Alex. Another fantastic presentation on the realities of actually undertaking and applying for Energy Catalyst funding. A couple of points that I picked up that I hadn't mentioned or heard mentioned previously. Yes, the monitoring officers, great value add. They're not there just to hit you with a stick. They really are there to monitor the program and make sure that it sticks to the schedule, but to offer help as well and support. Something that I've omitted to mention, but hopefully people picked up on, is that Zonke Energy is not a UK company. They are a lead from South Africa. And this goes to a question that's been asked to me several times this morning. Can international companies apply? Yes, international organizations can lead on an Energy Catalyst application. So I did advise going back and rereading the scope and the application details that Nicola and Carl delivered this morning. It's all in there. You can be an international lead on an Energy Catalyst application. So thank you very much for delivering that aspect. And then thirdly, both companies, both presentations mentioned the Carbon Trust support. I think I might have misled earlier in my rave comments after David's presentation. This support is only available to successful applicants. So it's another carrot to dangle. Not only do you get the monitoring officer support and the cash, but the amazing offer that David Aitken spoke about earlier in his presentation. So thanks once again to Mobile Power and to Zonke Energy for really telling us how it is. That's excellent presentations.
Thanks, Jonathan. Bye.
At this point, I'm going to move on to our questions and answers session. Now, slightly nervous about this because I know there have been a lot of questions coming in on the chat function in the YouTube presentation. So at this point, I'm going to ask Jenny to come forward. Open her mic. There she is. Excellent. Now, Jenny, I know that a lot of questions have been asked, and we probably don't have time to answer all of them during this session before we go to the break. And you've been answering a lot online in the chat. So hopefully there are some that have been still unanswered.
Yes.
Maybe we can lead with those.
But we'll see how many we get through, and we can always put the answers to the other ones in the chat box over the break. Okay, so the first question I had was, is the programme focused solely on innovative technologies, or does it support business ideas and processes as well?
Yeah, I think I said in my slide pack that this also considers the technology and business models and things like that. Yeah.
Great.
Not
and
purely technology focused.
The next question came up quite a few times in different variations. So maybe go through each of the different categories, but how many projects can one organisation lead, and how many can they be a partner in?
So organisations can submit as many applications as they wish to be lead or partners. I know there was a bit of difference between what I said and Carl said, but no, that is correct. You can apply to do as many as you want. However, if you are an organisation with, say, 2 staff members and you're applying to do 50 projects, we would look at that and see whether it's actually feasible for you to deliver. So don't just put in lots of applications, hedging your bets, so to speak. Really make sure you consider it well. I think the most we've ever had is 3 applications by the same organisation.
Okay, lovely. What differentiates a mid-stage and late-stage project? What's the difference between those two? In particular, what lies between pilot testing and commercialisation? So
it's the value of total eligible cost for the project that's different, the duration, and the number of partners / collaborators required. If you read through the state aid articles and guidance, you'll see that it's set out in there what a feasibility study is and what a mid-stage study is and things like that. So yeah, really look through this.
In terms of what they can actually do in the project, I think is where they were coming from rather than the details. So is it, like, for instance, mid-stage, is it prototype testing, and late stage is demonstration? What's the difference between the two?
Yeah, so one of them is industrial research, whereas the other one's feasibility studies. And the definitions of what's classed as activity under this is defined in the guidance online.
Okay. Could you please provide a contact for the legal person who can be reached to confirm eligibility for state aid?
So we can't provide legal advice as such. However, if you email any questions you have about whether you're eligible for state aid to support@Innovate UK, they should be able to either tell you we can't answer it or give you guidance.
Okay, lovely. Please, can you clarify if the GES system, GES Pathways to Impact and Justification of Resources sections are evaluated?
We just take the cost from your GES form, so don't worry too much about the other content, although you do have to complete all of it.
Okay. At what point does match funding need to be available? So when does match funding need to be in place?
Yeah, so you're required to have your match funding in place when you get issued your grant offer letter. So you'll have 90 days notice that you're successful. You don't necessarily need to have all of the money in the bank, so to speak, but you do need to have evidence of where it's going to come from. So say you're going to get an investment, you need the investor's letter, even if they don't pay it until later down the line. You do need the first quarter, because as mentioned many times during this, you need your first quarter's worth of funding available.
Yeah, that was the next question. There's a considerable expenditure at the start of the project. Will we receive a lump sum at the beginning to cover this?
No, you claim in arrears after a quarter.
Okay. The next one's about gender equality. So the company, it's a Scottish-based company, and their COO and majority shareholder is a woman. Would that contribute to the gender diversity of the project?
It might do, but you should have a read through and maybe get in touch with Value for Women as to how you can actually answer the question. When you look in the application form, you'll see there's a whole series of questions you have to answer under the gender and social inclusion. So just writing that you have one woman in your company wouldn't tick the box primarily.
Okay. Can a UK startup be both the admin and technical lead in project collaboration? So that's mid-stage and late stage.
Late stage, no. So late stage, it has to be collaborative. The same company potentially could be the admin and technical lead. They don't have to be somebody different, but they couldn't do that project alone.
Okay, I think that answers the next question as well. This was a question about what is the lead. I think you've already answered it, because you can have any number of leads. in previous competitions, there's only a lead has only been able to, companies only been able to be a lead in one project, but I guess that doesn't apply on this one.
Yeah, Innovate UK runs standard rules, which Carl detailed. However, Energy Catalyst runs to slightly different rules where we're a bit more open in our ability to be involved.
Is the lead of the project the admin lead or the technical lead?
So it'd be the admin lead for the application process, purely because the admin lead sets up IFS and invites others to join their application. However, there is a technical lead, which can be from anywhere in the world.
Great stuff.
There's a bookkeeping side of it, yes. The admin should be the project lead, although that's not necessarily true because we have 2 leads.
Yeah. If my proposal matches more than one country, am I eligible to apply for multiple countries on the same application?
So I would encourage whoever this came from to email in, because it depends on what you're doing and what stage you're applying to. Energy Catalyst doesn't fund the installation of, say, batteries in a variation of countries. Energy Catalyst funds innovation. So if you're looking to deploy a technology that's already been invented, isn't new, isn't doing anything different, that's not really in the scope of Energy Catalyst. So we'd want to have a little bit of a discussion over how you're sort of positioning your innovation.
Okay, and this question was actually for Charlotte. Are there any funding supports for postgraduate students looking to research on the Energy Catalyst funded projects?
Hello. I think obviously Nicola is also, because Nicola is obviously his Energy Catalyst, is probably in a better position to answer this, but and has to an extent. But any postgraduates that are looking to obviously be part of the competition will essentially need, if they need to go through their institution, so if they're looking to be part of it through their university, that the university would be the partner, but the postgraduate could potentially be named on the grant. Nicola, I mean, do you have anything to add? I think unless they're going to go in as a partner, but obviously would then require them to start up their own company, etc. That becomes quite complicated. So if anything, if a postgraduate is coming through their university, the university would be the named partner on the application.
Yeah, correct, Charlotte. So we don't fund anything outside of the early, mid and late. So we don't fund PhD students or postgrads directly. They'd have to be involved in a project. We do have quite a few PhD students and postgrads that are doing research for a project, involved in projects.
Okay, next one is about a particular project. Is biomass gasification to produce syngas for clean cooking in scope?
Yeah, I think if you email that one in, would have been a scope question. So whoever asked that, drop an email to the support line and we'll come back to you on that one.
Yeah, I'll pop that in the chat box in a moment.
Yeah.
What's the deadline for adding or removing possible projects or expertise to the marketplace tool?
So you can add anything on beta match the platform until the end of August, and then that's when it'll be taken down.
Okay. The next one, further to is it acceptable to have 2 admin leads from the same university but in different faculties, or would the whole university count as the admin lead?
The university would be the single point. There needs to be one organisation that's named as the admin lead. This is because if it's got international partners, we'll provide funding to that one organisation to deploy through the hub and spoke model.
Okay. In collaboration of 2 partners, does each partner submit their own project costs via the administrator lead?
Yep, so you get added into the application through the admin lead, and that is when, as Carl detailed, you go in and add your own total eligible costs for the project.
And can a UK-based company be a technical lead on one project and an admin lead on another?
Yeah, I don't think there's anything against that.
Okay.
Sounds like a trick question.
That was really easy, wasn't it? I'm just at the end of the questions. I'm just checking YouTube. So, the questions.
I can see a few questions on there. Somebody's asked what the role of the admin lead is. If you look in the competition documents, there's a whole section on the role of the admin lead. That one's covered off there.
You mentioned about the de minimis aid. How is that related to the Energy Catalyst?
So once you receive notification you've been successful, The Carbon Trust, under the Energy Catalyst Accelerator, will do a needs assessment with your project to work out who's going to be the one receiving the one-to-one business support. And at that point, you will be required to complete a de minimis declaration just to make sure you're eligible for that support.
The next one is about COVID. So with regards to the admin lead, do we have to comment on resources that we need to have in place?
Yes, anything to do with COVID-19 should be detailed as risks and throughout your project, because it's not an unknown thing anymore. We all know what's going on in the world.
Yeah, I think this is the last one now. Could you advise if an agri-tech project that has energy as a key component is eligible under this competition?
Again, you'd have to email that in, because we obviously have the agri-tech catalyst as well. So we have to look at which side of the fence that one sits on.
Okay, there's another one just popped up. Can match funding be provided by other grants or NGO donors?
So your match funding can't be any publicly funded money, because you can't match fund a grant with a grant to some respect. If you've got any questions on that, email in for the finer detail.
Okay.
It doesn't have to be purely investment. It could be sort of your own company's money and things like that. So yeah, email in.
Lovely. I think that's it, unless anybody else has any more questions online. Oh, one more. Is KTP a part of this? The Knowledge Transfer Partnerships?
No, they're not part of the Energy Catalyst admin team, if that's what they're asking.
Okay. Any more? One more. Can the partner project cost? Different from?
Yeah. So can the partner project cost differ from the UK project lead cost? So each partner inputs their own costs. So nobody puts in the total. The computer works it out together. And with regards to the DFID question, Energy Catalyst Round 8 funding is already sort of been ring-fenced.
Okay, I think that's it.
Great, thank you. Thanks, Nicola.
Sorry, we rattled through those pretty quickly.
We did.
Well, yeah, but having said that, we're still a little over time, and I think we lost our schedule around about the time that I started waffling on. So entirely my fault. We were due to be at this point by 12. It's now 12:08, and we're due to pick up again at 12:15. I propose that anybody that needs to can have a comfort break and or grab a drink within 7 minutes. So I'm going to say that we stick to 12:15 for the restart. At this point, huge thanks once again to everybody that's presented this morning. I found it really interesting, and I found out loads more about the competition than I knew, and I'm intimately involved with it. So I hope that everybody online has found it interesting and will remember to look back if there are details that are a bit hazy. So thank you for attending online. Thank you for your questions. Good luck with your applications. We look forward to receiving those and to reviewing them and to assessing them in due course. At that point, I'm going to go to mute, and we'll see you back here for some pitches from prospective applicants at 12:15. Thank you. We're back. Fantastic. Thank you for bearing with us. A couple of minor adjustments made to things behind the scenes, so I hope that we didn't lose too many in that intervening couple of minutes. So we're back now for the pitching session. We've got around about 8 or 10 companies, I believe, who are going to tell you about themselves, about their proposed project, what they can offer and what they're looking for from prospective partners. Please do make a note of the details that they show, and if they aren't on there, obviously you can Google them, or even better, go to B2 Match, where I'm sure they will all already be on, and if they aren't, hopefully they're scurrying around right now to put their details on B2 Match. So the first is Solar-Centric Technologies. I'm not quite sure who is presenting Solar-Centric Technologies, but if they can unmute themselves and get ready to talk, they will have 3 whole minutes to tell you about what it is they hope to do. And I know it's a typo, but I love the new word that we've got there, banakability, improved banakability of microgrids. So, okay. Do we have somebody to talk about Solar-Centric?
Yes, I'm here, Jonathan.
Ah, great. Over to you, sir.
Yeah, thank you very much, Jonathan. My name is Adetunji Iromini. I'm the CEO of Solar-Centric Technologies. Yes, bankability is a mistake. It's supposed to be bankability. I'm sorry about that. Yeah, bankability. Yeah, pretty straightforward. I've made it as simple as possible. Solar-Centric is one of the pioneers of renewable energy and energy efficiency in Nigeria. We assisted the government develop the mini-grid policy. So when you talk about energy to access to energy, and then the different segments we are involved. So in terms of what we're doing here, I played down the fact that we have ready projects that's requires funding of over $2 million already, and with 13 megawatts in the pipeline. However, for Energy Catalyst, what we're keen to actually bring to the table in terms of what to do are lowering the cost of service delivery to the unserved and underserved markets. In my space here in Nigeria, what I listed here are the major challenges we have. Cost of batteries are still relatively high, and unfortunately for us, it has to be in the mix. I have to have a diesel generator in the mix as well. The cost of solar panels have come down considerably. However, the analysis we did just a few years ago with Rocky Mountain Institute, the cost to deliver mini grid is still hovers around $5,000 per kilowatt. And in the end, by the time you consider your levelized cost of energy, the amount with which you need to offer energy to these people, it hovers around 50 cents per kilowatt hour. And these are the people that, according to the World Bank, they live on less than $2 a day. So it becomes extremely difficult to actually put together a proper bankable project, irrespective of the grant component. So what I'm trying to see is how we'll be able to lower cost, and that's why I have everything here. The third item here, which is mobile payments, in terms of collection at the moment, you have to do everything manually. The entire country isn't covered. They are the last mile, so you don't have any of the telecommunications infrastructure there. So we can't really do anything remotely in terms of payments or collection. We need to drive in and out with all the insecurities and co. In terms of our capabilities, so like I mentioned, we have projects that are at maturity stage already and ready for funding. So we have capabilities in project development right from the outset to financing stage, EPC, O&M, and then of course we're willing to provide project support as well as nationwide coverage. The market is still very young. A number of us who are in there right now, we tend to go around the country. Whom we are looking for, definitely financial partners, equity and debt. FX risk is an issue. We hope they will be able to consider that as they look to engage with us. Co-development of projects. The market is very large. As at 2-3 years ago, we estimated a $14 billion market, and it's going to get bigger the more energy we push into the system. So we really need more partners to come in around here and do more. I don't need to emphasize the fact that the report is out there that the largest market for mini grid is in Nigeria. I think that's pretty much what I want to say. I'm hoping we'll be able to get credible partners to work with us. Thank you very much. You need to unmute yourself, Jonathan. Okay.
Thank you, Tunji. A really good start. So that's set the bar. And somebody here from my old alma mater, my old university, Birmingham. I'm not sure who's speaking, but hopefully they do. Can you make yourself known? Anybody? Anybody owning Birmingham University, University of Birmingham? No? Well then, in the absence of anybody else, I'm just going to quickly leave that. I shall leave that there for a minute. You can read as well as I can, probably better on the evidence of this morning. But this is from the Birmingham Centre for Energy Storage. I do know that they have a fine reputation, and I'm not just saying that because I used to study there. Obviously, they've got a lot of access to technology, to facilities, and in particular, they're looking at cold storage technology for Energy Catalyst Round 8. Says there that the partners that they're looking for are people in country who can provide the assistance for demonstrating this novel technology. So if you are in Sub-Saharan Africa, South Asia or Southeast Asia and are looking for partners with a very fine reputation and who are looking to demonstrate cold storage technology or cold batteries, and they have a lot of experience of managing projects too, so would be quite a valuable partner. I do apologize that there isn't anybody to talk to this, so I don't know who the point of contact is at Birmingham, but if you are interested, please send me an email. That's jonathan.abra@ktn-uk.org, and Jonathan spelled Jonathan, Abra, A-B-R-A. So I've used up their time allocation, and if you want to follow up with Birmingham, send me an email and I will make that link. Right, Shelley, next one, please. Impact Collaborate. They've deviated from our format, but that's okay because I can see all the information's on there. Is somebody from Impact Collaborate going to speak?
Yes, hi Jonathan, it's Chen here.
Chen, great, good to have you. Off you go.
Okay, first apologize for the format. I thought this was the format, but anyhow, Impact Collaborate is a fairly new project overall, and basically what we do, instead of working on single solutions or solving single problems, we're trying to connect dots. So the Impact Collaborate itself is a kind of initiative where we try to solve social challenges through business innovation and collaboration. We focus on the clean technologies, sustainability, climate actions, but our focus point, instead of on the technology side, is more on the commercial viability, the marketability, and also the value adding towards the end users. So here we operate, overall the idea is with three key components: knowledge sharing, marketplace, and solution-based consultancy. So that is the general idea behind what we try to do, is to offer a kind of horizontal approach with the view that we see there are already a lot of good solutions either coming on the way or already proof concept, but they kind of work either in silos or they are very scattered all over the world, where we often see a need for connecting them better to serve the end user markets. So the project we are proposing here as one of the many ideas, basically we try to make it as concrete as possible so we can at least imagine what it would look like. So for now, I put it as a digital marketplace for clean tech, climate smart technologies, solutions, and business partners. In a way, it might turn out not to be really a marketplace alone. Instead of, for example, when we talk about marketplace, we might imagine like an online database with a lot of solutions listed or a lot of products and systems. But what we're looking at is actually a more active approach. This marketplace is a place where we want to gather the workable solutions. We want to gather the business partners, meaning the people behind the solutions who have the technology, who have the knowledge, and who have the will to solve these challenges. And then together with this network of solutions and the business partners, we want to create better access, knowledge sharing, and also expert support for the locally based entrepreneurs. So the idea basically is we gather this network of solutions and experts, and our target group will be those locally based entrepreneurs in the target regions or countries or communities where they have the goal of achieving their sustainable development goals and also serving their local people and community. So basically, this marketplace is the way how we want to make the connection between these target regions with the outside world. And also on the other side, where we gather these expertise and solution is we see a lot of brilliant global challenges, global initiatives, as much as like the Energy Catalyst, although I'm very new to this platform, but I have found that it attracts a lot of expertise and a lot of innovative minds. But often what happens after a challenge, especially with the award-winning initiatives or even those who haven't really won the awards or the funding, but perhaps they are on the right track, that what we want to do is to kind of patch up the solution and to offer this channel where we can bring them together and work further so we can still serve the markets where the challenges exist and looking for solutions. Also the platform, this will be a platform for cross-border knowledge sharing, resource networking, and collaborative innovation. Back to the point where we wanted to connect dots, because we do see a lot of people working towards similar challenges, a lot of regions, communities struggling with the same issues, whereas if we could join force in a way that is also practical, that is also more active, that we see better chance to really grow the capacity for the local communities, because often they are the ones who have to stay long enough to generate long-lasting impacts, where the solution providers...
To get to the final ask, please.
Yeah, so that is basically the idea. It's a kind of a marketplace where we try to help the innovations go a longer way. And what we're looking for from the partners is more on the technical side, also, of course, also funding capabilities. We listed basically we can focus on designing the business models and how to drive this further. But that's the...
Where can people contact you?
Yeah.
How can people contact you? Are you on B2Match?
Sorry, because there was no space for that.
No.
Yeah, I am on the Energy Catalyst. I can also write on the chat here my contact information.
Okay, we can pass that on to anybody who'd like to follow up with Chen regarding that. But of course, as we've emphasized all morning, B2Match is the place to go, and there you can arrange to meet in cyberspace. And yeah, we've got your contact details there. Thank you very much indeed. Fantastic. So you can see I'm quite brutal when I get around to it. Next presentation, please. Shelley? Oh, great. Thank you. So La Gazelle is a new one on me. Who's going to speak to that? No? Nobody from La Gazelle? No? Lightning everywhere is a great strapline, I think, although lightning's a bit scary. So again, this is going to be a bit of an orphan presentation, for which I apologize to whoever was going to present. They obviously didn't quite make it here, although we did send multiple reminders. So La Gazelle, a local manufacturer of quality off-grid solar products in Africa. 60 years experience in France, 15 years experience in Africa. So obviously quite well established as an organization. What they're proposing to do, local manufacturing of quality, low cost and low carbon solutions for off-grid energy sector, taking into account repairability and recycling. The capabilities, well, they've got lots of experience apparently, and co-development of technical solutions, locally trained workforce, technical and logistics resources, operating to high standards with traceability and medium and large series. I'm not quite sure what series means in this context. So they're looking for partners from all aspects, I believe. So if you think that you're looking for somebody who's got presence in Africa, who's got a track record of delivering in Africa and in Europe, and obviously some significant resources behind them, you can see there is a website, www.lagazelle.com. contact@lagazelle.com is the email address if you want to follow up. Hopefully somebody from that organization will be on B2 Match, and you can find them through the search function. Right, quickest yet. That was only a minute and a half. Well done me. Next one. So Infinities Global has apparently taken a liberty of a slide per section, but that's okay because I don't think they've gone overboard with the information. So hopefully within 3 minutes, somebody from Infinities, somebody there, make yourself known, unmute, say hello.
Hi, Jonathan.
Good Peng, thank you.
Hi, this is Peng from Infinities Global.
The floor.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. So I think I will briefly introduce our company, what we do and what we can offer. Basically, we are a UK technology startup. We specialize in marine energy. And the second line of our business is on smart electric vehicle charging system. So our founders has spent over a decade in R&D, and eventually we developed a new system using tidal energy to generate electricity and also for seawater desalination. So from our tests, we find that we could bring down the marine energy costs by almost 75% compared to what the market is offering now. So we are very excited to offer a technology solution for any regions or entity who are interested in developing a marine energy solution for the future. The second line of our business is we are developing a cloud-based smart electric vehicle charging system with a well-established manufacturer. So we provide the software solution and they provide the hardware solution. And this system has already been successfully applied in many regions, especially in China. So the second line is more a mature technology solution. Sorry, Jonathan, how can I? Yes, thank you. So what we are proposing now, we are looking for anybody who are interested in either of the following projects. The first one, this is more on a testing and demonstration stage. So we would like to find a suitable location and with interested body who would like to develop the marine energy for the future. We are able to provide both the hardware and the software And I think the key challenge here is we need to find the local partners who can help us to get access to the marine resources. And then because like for any infrastructure program, especially for this new tech, it takes from demonstration stage to fully commercialization. At the current stage, we want to take it step by step. So that's our first project. The second one we would like to offer is for developing a smart EV charging system. For the advantage of our system is that we have a very high standard of safety and efficiency. And it is built on a cloud base where we could incorporate the big data analysis, and this offer a very efficient management, and also there is a great market opportunity when we can have access to the data. If you could move to the next page. So what we can offer is on the first project, on the marine energy project, we fully own the intellectual property of the system. And currently we are working with EMEC, which is the European Marine Energy Center, for the next stage development. And what we could offer is helping regions and countries to design and build an affordable and sustainable green energy solution, and also clean water supply. For the second project, as I have explained, this technology is market readily and it has been successfully applied. So we are looking for any regions with relevant interests. So if you could move to the next page. So overall, we are looking for local organization with relevant interests in either of our projects. We are very excited because I think the marine energy sector is lagging behind solar and wind energy. However, if you look at theoretically, the marine energy has higher energy density compared to solar and wind. So we think with our technology innovation, we can bring in an affordable and renewable green energy solution for the future.
Great, thank you very much indeed. And people can get hold of you through B2Match, is that right?
Yes, correct. All my information is on B2Net.
Great, and I imagine that there will be a number of people who will look to connect on that basis. Marine energy is something that we don't see a lot of applications for, but as you say, has lots of potential. So thank you very much for that. Next,
thank you very much.
Shelley. Okay, so I hope that somebody recognizes themselves from this slide. Anybody? I think it might be Oye Mbasa. Oye, are you online? If so, please say. No? That's a shame, because we had a long correspondence over the weekend to try to get this pulled together. So Oye Mbasam is online. He's on B2Match. You can find him using the company name there, Ishak Sone Nigeria. Essentially, as I understand it, they are a project management company specializing in renewable energy. And somebody's got their cursor moving around and around. They're proposing 4 solar mini-grid projects in the Niger Delta and Lagos.
Hello?
For local
Hello?
knowledge, technical.
Hello?
Oh, you are there.
I'm so sorry. I was just trying to get together. Thank you so much, Jonathan. We are a renewable energy company. We've been in the space since 2007. We currently work with Manufacturers Association of Nigeria. By that token, we are highly connected to most of the industries. Right now, we are also trying to look beyond the manufacturing sector to mini-grid in rural areas. What are the projects we have on hand? We have 3 mini-grid projects in the rural area. We are trying to see how we can get power to the rural community. We discovered that in the rural community, people have the desire to make a living, but there is no power to make such living. For instance, in the coastal region where they do a lot of fishing, we realize that these women go out fishing. By the time they come back with a lot of catch, by the following day, all the fish, they've gone bad. So what we are trying to do is to connect these communities with mini-grid so that they can have access to preserve their catch, number one. Number two, by the time there is light in these rural communities, you will have a change of education, SME will spring up, and this is the kind of thing we like to do so that the rural-urban migration can be stemmed, and then people in the rural community will have a sense of livelihood. We also have a project for schools. One of them is a Lagos State Polytechnic. They don't have light, the students don't read well. We think we can put light in the power in their library. So those are the short projects that we are highlighting for which we're looking at partners for. What's our capabilities? We have local knowledge, we are grounded, we have capability, we have people that can work for us. We can do our design, manage, and then even train local people too. We have access to partners too, and we are willing to work with partners. So what are we looking for? We are looking at how partners can bring in technology, like Aromire said, Tunji said, Nigeria is big. We need, the technology is not here. So EPSRC Nigeria Limited is looking forward to working with technology owners to push their product into the Nigerian space. We are available, we can support you, we can help you advertise, sell, make your project known in Nigeria because we need the power, we need the technology. So what we stand for, we want as many technology options in Nigeria. What does that do? It will crash the costs. Tunji mentioned the cost is high. By the time we have choices to make, the cost will go down. So one of the reasons why I'm here is to solicit and want to collaborate with technology owners that will be willing to come to Nigeria. We offer the space, the comfort, the safety for us to work together with them, push projects, particularly the rural areas and even industries. So that's what we stand for in a short way.
Excellent, thank you, and thank you for keeping to time. That was very succinct and a very clear offer and ask, I think. So I know that speaking with UK-based companies trying to find their way into many overseas territories is quite challenging. So if you're looking for somebody who's based in Nigeria and which part of Nigeria are you based?
I'm in Lagos. My my details are in the Energy Catalyst dashboard, and I can be reached through ishaksune@gmail.com. Very simple, ishaksune@gmail.com. By the way, I like what I heard from the last speaker. Nigeria is big. We welcome you. We like to do business. We want the technologies. We want people to have light.
Great, make those connections. That's what we like to hear.
Yeah,
So
thank you. Thank you.
Our last slide is coming up next. So this looks to be University of Port Harcourt in Nigeria. Do we have somebody from Port Harcourt? Somebody who can help us through
Thank
this?
you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Owe, can I just ask?
Yeah, thank you. We are the Energy and Powertrain Research Group of the Department of Mechanical Engineering, University of Port Harcourt, Nigeria. And I'm here with some of my colleagues, Dr. Diemodeke Rona and Dr. Tobin Singh Briggs. Our project, what our proposed project is, we are interested in the mini-grid energy system with energy storage facilities for lighting, cooking, cooling, and e-mobility. The mobility will also extend to like speedboats and so on, which will be battery electric driven, and with the provision for solar cooling, solar charging facilities. The capacity we can offer includes data gathering and detailed design analysis, the modeling and simulation, the optimization analysis, and the instrumentation and the experimentation part of it, and then to facilitate acceptance of outcomes and commercialization, and also facility for hardware installation and testing. And what we are looking for small and medium scale enterprises, research and development organization, and the original equipment manufacturer, solar PV and ancillary systems, and the battery electric vehicle for agro industry and transport, and also in the fishing and the marine industry. And we had earlier completed a project funded by the Royal Academy of Engineering on curriculum development in automotive engineering, which cut across Nigeria and Ghana. And we're also currently developing a master curriculum in renewable energy and energy access. And what we are doing now is to practicalize what we have done in the academic sector, such that we can solve some of the challenges currently facing the Nigerian community. And this can also be extended to other West African and other Sub-Saharan Africa. We can be reached at edu.ng or my email mohammed.ojapa at mohammed.ojapa.
I think we may have lost Mohammed. Mohammed, I'm very sorry for that.
Hang on.
Yeah, we're experiencing lots of breakup of your signal.
Mohammed.edu.ng. Thank you.
Great.
Thank you. Yeah, that's due to the network signal. Sorry for that. Yeah. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, and apologies to anybody listening that couldn't get those. We have got them through on the chat, and hopefully, I haven't checked, but hopefully Mohammed is on the B2 Match platform and you can contact him there. If not, do that quickly, Mohammed. But we do have the contact details, so if you want to engage with the University of Port Harcourt Department of Mechanical Engineering, you can get in touch with us. Obviously, a very, very valuable potential partner there on the ground with resources, with expertise. So I anticipate you'll get many approaches, Mohammed. Thank you once again.
Thank you.
So I believe that we have one more presentation from Javier. I'm hoping that Javier is with us, but has no slides. Is that correct, Javier? I can see.
Can you hear now?
We can hear you now, thank you. Over to you.
Well, Well, yes, I am Javier Dominguez. I am the managing director of an organization called TWEFDA, which is TWEFDA. And well, the project is called Combined Renewable Energy Generator with Storage Capabilities. One machine, two purposes. So speaking a little bit about the company, TWEFDA stands for Tidal and Waves Energy from Decommissionable Assets, and is a company that was incorporated in January 2018. The project right now has one person directly working for it, which is myself, and 3 partners dealing with legal, business model, and manufacturing. There's also an expression of interest from the academia in a project that will kick off in 2 days' time. The technology has been proven as unique through an IP audit and a technical feasibility study that has been carried out by the University of Aberdeen. There has been a TAP, which is a technology assessment process conducted by Catapult to find that the technology is at TRL2. So let's speak a little bit about what the tool is about. So my company is developing an energy device with dual functionalities, addressing the 2 biggest challenges the energy market is facing right now with one single device. So on the one hand, we have the energy storage, which is a cross-cutting issue. The appliance is capable of storing electricity from the national grid in the form of potential energy to release it as needed. Obviously in the form of electricity. So it is keeping the electricity and converting that into potential energy. But then as a renewable energy production generator, the device is well optimized power takeoff, is full of redundancies in order to maximize uptime, and has a high capacity of conversion even under relatively calm oceans. The system comprises 2 parts, one of which is fixed and the other one reciprocates with waves. A quick connection system between the 2 parts allows the portability of the reciprocating one among several fixed parts. This allows the possibility to attend an emergency situation, such as an earthquake or a tsunami, and in conjunction with the ability for the device to be jacked up, secures survivability and facilitates maintenance operations. The technology is sustainable, has very big energy efficiency, can potentially repurpose decommissioning assets or relies on its own, belongs to the low carbon technologies, and contributes to the circular economy, both by using renewable sources and by helping the national grid to stabilize without using heavy rare metals to store electricity. Furthermore, the technologies required in the entire world, can be working 24/7, is extremely respectful with the environment, and has the potential to revolutionize the whole energy sector. I hope so. So the capabilities we can offer. So we can what we can offer is related to engineering and technology know-how. There are hundreds of drawings and simple animations and a quite extensive literature related to how the device works in different modes and different circumstances. The technology can apply to markets such as building construction, marine structures, and more importantly, to the very successful wind energy. But the device we are more focused on, our minimum viable product, is the wave energy converter with the storage capabilities. So what we are looking for from partners, we are looking for partners who can basically help us move the project out of the ground, completing the different stages that are required from TRL2, which is the current status, to at least TRL5, when the product starts to be de-risked and further finance can be achieved from angels, venture capitals, or others. Just to add on that the next 3rd July, organized by the Association for Black and Minority Ethnic Engineers, my company will be presenting a webinar titled tidal and wave energy from decommissionable assets, one machine, two purposes, where I will be presenting the device. So please ask for links if you're interested, and feel free to share with others. I have put in the chat my contact details and some links, I think, for this particular event. So thank you very much. That's me.
Muted. Thank you, Javier. And you even managed to slide in an advert there at the end. So well done you. That is the end of our presentations. As I've said all along, if you want to get in contact with any of those people, please look them up on B2Match. If you didn't get any details, name or company name, do contact us, hopefully with enough information for us to identify who was speaking, and we will endeavour to make those connections. And that is the end of our content for today. I won't bother going back to sharing slides. I will hand over to Nicola, who, as our sponsor and the lead for Energy Catalyst at Innovate UK, is leading on all of this. Nicola, it's for you to close.
Thanks, everyone, and thanks to Jonathan at the KTN for the wonderful hosting he's been doing. I was trying to think of the right word there. Master of Ceremonies hosting, you can be both. If anyone does have any follow-up questions, please feel free to drop an email to support@innovateuk.ukri.org. I have copied and pasted it numerous times into the YouTube chat box, but given it will disappear probably once this recording, so if you're watching this back, I'll repeat it. It's support@innovateuk.ukri.org. And you should be able to pick it up there. And otherwise, I will catch some of you on B2Match. The sessions which Value for Women and LCEDN advertised are now live on there, so you can click and register for those. And any further questions yet, just let me know. Thanks once again to all those who presented. It's been a really interesting morning, seeing the likes of Zonke and Mobile Power share their experiences. So yeah, wish you the best of luck in your applications. Thanks all.
My professional career started working for Save the Children in Lesotho in South Africa. So I always had a very strong interest and passion for child health. My inspiration for starting Apparito 5 years ago was just seeing the impact of asking children and families to travel to hospitals, how stressful they found it to take part in clinical assessment. And why does every test have to be so long, painful, and only be based in the hospital? So that's why I decided to change the way that we do patient monitoring and to offer them the opportunity to use innovation such as their own smartphone, wearable devices, video recordings to capture the disease impact aspects that are important to them. As you probably can imagine, most patients don't suffer from the symptoms right there and then in clinic with the doctors, and they always happen at night when they're away, when they're quite some distance from the hospital. So trying to encourage them to be able to capture and report that information in real time through using our technology. Through the Innovate UK funding, we were able to start our precision medicine study in Cape Town in South Africa. And I think from very early on, there was that natural fit that meant that we've never had friction or difficulty in, we've had challenges, and it's been, it's not to say that the work hasn't been easy, but because we all had the ultimate goal and the overall objective, it's made working with them extremely fruitful and productive. That funding allowed us to create a whole new concept, and from start to finish. So as a company, it was a very exciting study to be involved in. And from a credibility point of view, the funding gave us a lot of credibility. The experience has given us a lot of sort of profile and learnings. And all these things together just sort of make you in a much stronger position to then translate it to other areas and seek new funding or contracts. For us as a company, since we secured or won the Newton Fund, we've actually gone on to secure 1.4 million investment, and we've also won around 12 different contracts with sort of now studies and patients across all 4 continents in the world. And that opportunity to start working outside of the UK and outside Europe was very informative and very critical for us in our business to be able to demonstrate that we could deploy our technology globally, and the South Africa experience was a key step in that.